Why did you make it out as if you wouldn't be capable of defeating the shard of Orochimaru right now? Isobu struck up conversation as he worked and toiled away. And by that, he meant he sat absolutely still while a clone of his took a needle filled with sealing ink and his own blood. An hour had passed now since Anko left him with the most raging of all raging erections, horny for a piece of pie, and until he could calm himself down and shake off the blue balls that would no doubt come, he figured he'd get something productive done and dusted with. As such, he was finally getting around to enhancing the Dimension Force seal. And by that, he meant adding the Barrier seal, the Chakra Absorption seal and the Chakra Filter seal to the final product. You clearly wanted to bed the woman very much. The shard of Orochimaru will be nowhere near his full strength. Not with the pitiful amount of chakra it will have available to it. Less even than the amount you had when we first met. The three-tailed Biju continued. He would be trapped in there, nowhere to run and forced to face you with full access to my power. Formidable the man may be, but there's only so much one can do with so little chakra. Daiki forced himself not to grimace at the thought. For sure, he could have done it. He could have killed that shard, taken its chakra for another boost in his capacity, fixed Anko's seal and railing her silly right here and right now. As much as he wanted to do that though, he wanted to focus on the bigger picture. That could come later, after he'd learned all he could of Orochimaru's jutsu and fighting style from Anko herself. She was bound to know a bunch of jutsu of his. Like that hidden shadow snake hands jutsu. He'd always wondered before if that required a summoning contract with the snakes to use, and if so, he might be able to apply the usage of it to make jutsu with the chameleons, kind of like Jiraiya's toad jutsu and shit. Ah, how obvious, I should have realized. Isobu paused at Daiki's thoughts. The only thing that comes before rutting like a lust-filled wild beast with you is your beloved grind and gaining even more power. Don't knock it till you try it. Daiki replied with a mental shrug. I don't need to. I can share your senses such as touch whenever I please due to there being no barriers between us. It is a pleasant feeling I suppose, but I do not harbor the attraction you do to human females, Isobu retorted. Nor do I have a fascination with large bouncing mammaries or perky round buttocks. Sucks to suck. Daiki snorted. Say that when you can boast having even a 50th of the chakra I do. Isobu shot back. Fuck you. Daiki mentally gave him the finger. Sorry, I'm not a slovenly human woman. Are those stolen eyes of yours going bad already? Isobu retorted. And from there they devolved into some squabbling and ribbing of each other while his shadow clone pierced his hands with a needle over and over. Despite what he claimed to his inner turtle power buddy, Serpent King Manda 2.0 Sage Mode thought otherwise. And by that, Daiki meant that his raging dick took absolutely ages to calm down. He wasn't anywhere near Snow Country and nor did he have a summoning contract for them, so it just wasn't possible to club some seals either. So he just had to tough it out and deal with the blue balls. Bickering with Isobu helped keep his mind off of it at least. Even if he still had to walk a little bit gingerly, when it should be Anko walking bow-legged in his place. But such was life. The things I do for the grind. Daiki shook his head, idly examining his newly enhanced hand seals. He held one hand up and focused his chakra and thought into it and watched as a small spherical barrier shimmered into existence around his hand. He could make it way bigger, the size and sturdiness of it dependent on the amount of chakra he put into it, but he was just testing it out for now. With his other hand, he held out one finger, lightning sparking into existence and buzzing loudly around it, and he gave a single finger thrust. A loud tick noise echoed throughout the room, and his fingers was rebuffed. Not bad. Daiki whistled. He could pierce through solid rock with a lightning-enhanced finger thrust nowadays. A far cry from in the beginning when he could barely crinkle a leaf. And that was with a pitifully small amount of chakra. At full capacity, this barrier seal of his could probably block a rank jutsu and not fall. He withdrew his chakra from the seal and watched the shield flickered and disappear, before reaching up and stretching his arms over his shoulders. Guess I'll go take a look around here now, he mused. There really wasn't much for him to do right now. The only thing he had to do was physical training, but he could do that later, and his clones were already working on the jutsu that had been ever so generously donated to him in the forest. Daiki left his room for the next few days, locking the door behind him, and went a little donner through the tower. A single glance with his eyes told him where the most interesting people to look up were. And by that, he meant the mess hall. Well, Anko was at the top of the tower, talking to some very interesting people, and a cripple. He wasn't expecting Danzo to be there, But he wasn't important at all, not right now anyway. They're probably watching me right now. Daiki mused. There were cameras spread about all over the building, even one in his bedroom. It was a simple matter to notice them with his eyes, even hidden within the wall as they were. He'd already covered the lens. If it was just a normal day, he wouldn't mind. In fact, he would have timed it just right for when a time only Anko was watching and then gave her a good show. But he was waiting on a delivery right now, too actually. And he didn't know when his summons would pop up with them. So, they didn't get to spy on him like every other genin competitor in this tower. When he arrived in the mess hall, Daiki was quick to notice the occupants. As he confirmed more than an hour ago, Team 8 were present, as were Gaara and his siblings. Odd that they were still hanging around in here, but then, there really wasn't much to do in the tower. I totally should have stayed out in the forest. Daiki groaned inwardly. He should have stuck around and kept an eye on Sakura to see how she did against the team from Sound. Maybe tease her a bit more about her ass. It was so funny when she tried to take a swing at him and moved in practically slow motion to his eyes. The way you left her in a tizzy brought a smirk to his face. He shook his head, putting that out of mind. It wasn't possible now after all. Who should I sit with, I wonder? He mused. There were 3 options. Hinata and her team near the front tables, Kankuro and Temari in the absolute middle as if they ruled the territory, or Gaara lounging at the very bottom corner out of sight keeping to himself. Hinata or Temari? A tough choice. Hinata was hot as shit, but she was into Naruto, so no progress could be made there. Temari was a hot older girl, but she was also here to destroy his village and kill everyone, and had a bit of a cruel condescending streak for Konoha Nin currently. It would usually just come down to those 2 choices. But Gaara, it could be fun to mess with him. Decisions. Daiki smirked, casually making his way to the front of the room where a long selection of food was prepared and waiting to be picked from. All eyes of the occupants of the mess hall went to him as he casually made his way over to the selection of food. Not bad a selection either, Daiki noted. Yoink, yoink, yoink. He grabbed up some chicken, some egg, some fish, and paused at the end where he found a selection of meat ranging from pork to lamb. Oh ho! Doner kebab. Yoinkity yoinky yoink yoink. He gained quite the taste for it after he fused with his alternate self. Doner kebab had been his absolutely favorite food. Now I just need to find somewhere that does some nice chili sauce one of these days, he mused to himself. With a massive platter of meat to fill his belly and fuel his gains later, Daiki turned around and eyed the occupants again, idly glancing them over. Tempting, oh so tempting to go poke fun at Gaara, it really honestly was. But, sadly, it was probably best that he did not do that. Things were going to be a big pain in the ass as was soon days. Bullying Gaara would definitely throw a few things off course. If at all possible, he'd like to keep Gaara's path alone the same into the finals. There was no telling where he'd play into things if, say, Daiki was the one to fight him and beat him during the preliminaries. He'd have enough to deal with considering he wanted Old Man Third to survive and Orochimaru seemingly was thinking sending Kimimaro after his head. And Gaara would definitely not be in the finals if Daiki went and had some fun poking at him and giving him the good ol' run around. The redhead would no doubt snap, try to murder him, and then Daiki would be forced to put the boot to his sand-covered head. Best to play it safe then. He mused and began making his way over to where Team 8 was situated. He could at least pass some time flirting with Hinata. As he made his way over, he passed by the 2 older Sand siblings and met Temari's eyes. He winked at her. Her eyebrows rose, but she smiled back at him. What's with Konoha? It's full of total hotties. He read her surface thoughts. Hey. Sup? Daiki greeted Hinata and her team a second later, sliding into the seat beside the Hyuga girl and putting his tray of food down. Hope you don't mind company. Hello Daiki-kun. Hinata gave him a warm smile in return. Feel free dude, Kiba snorted, good timing anyway, I've been wanting to ask you some shit. He said, while the bug using Shino Aburame merely gave a slight incline of his head in a nod as greeting. Daiki gave the Aburame a nod back, before turning his attention to Kiba, and that would be? He asked the canine shinobi. Absently reaching down and grabbing up a big honking piece of chicken and taking a big bite out of it. For one, the hell happened to you? Kiba raised an eyebrow and leaned forward to look him in the eyes. It's only been what, 6 or so months since we all graduated, and since then you've gone on to become some super ninja apparently? At least according to this Kabuto dude we talked. Special permission from the Hokage to do this exam solo, and you even have freaking Sasuke looking for info on you. Hell. Hinata was even telling us we needed to avoid you in the exam if we didn't want taken out straight away. Nothing much, I just trained hard, ate my veggies and drank plenty of juice, Daiki shrugged. Then looked to Hinata and grinned at her. You wanted to avoid me, huh? I'm hurt. His grin transitioned into a pout. Hinata's warm smile stretched a tad and she rose a hand to cover her mouth politely. Era? Did you want to find me in the forest? She asked in return and Daiki froze and then blinked, taken aback. If I knew you missed me so much, I would have waited for you. Her hand moved around to cup her pale cheek daintily. What just happened? Did she just flirt back with him? And with the way he'd offhandedly mentioned to try on her blonde crush? A glance at her teammates told him they were just as surprised as he. Kiba was gaping at her wide-eyed and Shino's eyebrows had risen up above his sunglasses rising into his hairline. For a moment, Daiki just stared at the Hyuga heiress, completely taken aback by her confident, rather bold reply. And that era, it took his mighty strong willpower to stop himself from shivering. 10 out of 10, that was perfect. His stunned reaction to her reply was very obvious, and Hinata's smile grew a tiny bit wider. You totally should have. He forced his shock down and grinned at the older girl. There was a point there where I had to sit still for a good few hours. Looking at you would have made it much more bearable. Her cheeks tinted red, but before she could reply, her teammate jumped in. Sitting around for a few hours out there? Guess we're so good even a hotshot ringer like you're getting called would have trouble keeping up. Kiba grinned at him. We finished in just 4 hours, second team overall and even broke a few records. The feral dog using Shinobi boasted proudly. I finished in less than 45 minutes and was the first to finish the exam actually. If you're going by the Suna team over there beating you for placements, then you guys are third actually. Daiki burst his bubble and smirked at him, idly picking up and chomping down on a piece of kebab meat. I just didn't feel like waiting around, so went to play some more in the forest and have some fun. What? Kiba blinked, the proud grin on his face disappearing and he stared at Daiki blankly. No way, bullshit. He shot to his feet and slammed his hands on the table. His loud eruption drew 3 sets of eyes. 2 male and 1 belonging to a pretty sandy blonde. No, he is not lying, Shino commented looking at Daiki in the eye through his sunglasses. Why? Because only a fool would lie about a thing so easy to confirm when any exam proctor could tell us. What he said. Daiki's smirk grew to taunting proportions. Kiba clicked his tongue. Well, whatever, we still beat Sasuke and Naruto at least. He sat back down, arms crossed. Guess that ringer shit has some merit to it then, Maybe, or maybe I'm just that good, Daiki shrugged. Don't put too much stock into the ringer thing. Most ringers aren't absolute badasses like me, but like Sasuke. Hell, give it a year or so and Hinata could be one as well. You think so? Hinata hummed. I know so. He turned his ever-so-lovable smirk on her. Ah, thank you. She looked away, thanking him softly, but even then she couldn't hide how pleased her voice sounded. Hey. More confident and taking his advice or not, she still wasn't quite used to the honest praise yet. Alright, the heck is going on between you two? Kiba questioned, looking between the pair of them weirdly. Hinata's been acting weird lately, totally different, and you're totally flirting with her bro. Hinata turned back around to reply, but Daiki beat her to it. Nothing much, just been helping her train and change some things to get what she wants, he shrugged. Kiba's eyebrows rose. So you're the reason for the new look and how fast she's been improving? He asked, leaning back in surprise. Something like that, Daiki shrugged again. I just gave her some home truths, ain't that right, good looking? He looked to Hinata, his smirk growing. Something like that. Hinata repeated his words, a light demure giggle escaping her lips. Kiba eyed them for a moment before rolling his eyes. Well, whatever, not really my business unless you're causing her trouble. He gave up, and leaned back over the table. Since you're here actually, and since you've helped Hinata so much, I'll give you a heads up about a guy even you should avoid. Oh, Daiki's interest was piqued. Though, he already had a good guess as to who Kiba was about to warn him about. Kiba leaned forward over the table a bit more, to the point where he was literally hanging over Daiki's food and met his eyes, before flickering them briefly to the corner of the mess hall, and Akamaru on his head under his hood was directly in front of his face. Directly where Gaara was sitting out of the way. As expected. Daiki supposed they saw him in action in the Forest of Death. Daiki nodded, signaling Kiba he knew who he was talking about. That guy's crazy, he got thousands of senbon tossed his way and didn't even blink. Just used some freaky sand jutsu to shield himself and it was so fast I could barely follow it, Kiba whispered lowly. He carries around his sand in that crazy gourd on his back and it stinks man. It absolutely reeks of blood, even right now I can smell it. We saw him kill a team of 3 older rain ninja that seemed really tough. He just crushed them to death is his sand, it was brutal. Dunno how strong you are now dude. But I doubt even Sasuke could beat this guy. Information given, the dog ninja leaned back into his seat. And Daiki noted that Hinata and Shino were giving him their full attention as well as he digested Kiba's words. Hinata especially seemed to be waiting to see how he would reply to Kiba's words about the Jinchuriki of the one-tailed Shukaku. Oh, you mean raccoon boy? Daiki wasn't quiet at all as he replied and his voice traveled over the mess hall easily. Yeah, you're right about him being tough. Not someone any of you guys can take on. He's the youngest son of the case cage, and the hot blonde and guy with the painted face are his siblings. He noted in his peripheral vision, both Temari and Kankuro tensing up, especially at the raccoon boy part. The teal eyes of Temari met his own and were now wide with shock. Course, I'm different from you guys. He's not someone I can't kick around for fun. Daiki smirked boldly, and didn't break eye contact with Temari. If you go up against the other two though, the guy is a puppet user using chakra strings and probably poison while the hot blonde is definitely a wind user. A bad matchup for any of you guys actually. He noticed Kankuro tense at his words, and Temari's wide-eyed gaze narrowed at him. He winked at her and turned away, looking at the 3 of Team 8. You seem to know a lot about them. Hinata pointed out and he noticed there was now a small frown on her face. She must be really taking these guys seriously. I know a lot in general, he shrugged, but yeah, you guys should avoid taking them on, well beyond Puppet Boy. You and Shinobi are bad matchups for him after all as well, he added to the white-eyed girl. And he noticed then, he was done with his food. Daiki stood up, his tray in hand. Right, well, fun as this has been, I'ma go train and grind this meat into my meat, Daiki said. He paused only to smirk at Hinata. You're welcome to grind on my meat anytime you want by the way. Shino's eyebrows rose up over his sunglasses in surprise. Kiba gaped go BM sacked. Hinata blinked and gave him a confused glance, before her eyes widened as she apparently realized what he said and a crimson-red blush spread across her cheeks. Era. She cupped her face once more though, surprising him. How forward Daiki-kun. But if you need help with your meat, I may pop by your room later to help you with it. Daiki blinked. Stunned. Hinata? Kiba spluttered. Kiba's shock was enough to let him recover from his own and Daiki recovered his smirk. I'll hold you to that sweet number 9. He winked at her and left the table. Later. He bid them goodbye and went off to deposit his tray and leave the room. As he did, he noted once again all eyes were on him, and Gaara in particular was glaring bloody murder at him, leaking a heavy dose of killing intent. Scary, not. He smirked at the redhead as he left. He had to at least get one taunt in on him even if he was hoping to avoid putting the boot to his sand rodent ass. So this is Daiki Urahim. The impassive voice of an elder woman mused aloud. There was no inclination as to what Kaharu Utatane felt in her voice as a gathering of high-ranking shinobi and kunoichi alike observed the boy making his way back to his provided room for his stay in Tower of the Forest of Death. Beside her, a frown was on the face of her teammate Homura Mitokado, but he said nothing himself. Each of them were sat on either side of the third Hokage, who had a small amused smile on his face as he witnessed what just happened in the mess hall of the tower. Throughout the room, the staff of shinobi and kunoichi that oversaw the Forest of Death itself and the second round of the Chunin exams kept quiet. Even Anko, standing beside the screens showing off the feed from the cameras throughout the tower. Koura began, but she was cut off. The sound of wood echoed through the room as a cane was thrust into the floor hard. He's a fool, Danzo Shimaru spat. Not too impressed. He just drew the eyes of the case cage's children, one of them an unstable Jinchuriki, knowingly at that, just so he could show off to a girl. His one unbandaged eye opened and he gave a disdainful glance at the Hokage. This is the one you have so much interest in? His disappointment could not be any more apparent. Hirazen's smile grew. As always, you have such a narrow view on things my old friend, he replied, voice casual and not at all bothered by his disdain. I assume you're annoyed at the fact he so easily revealed what he knew, in front of them at that. Of course, any advantage he could glean from that is now lost, Danzo scoffed. Talented he may be, but talent means nothing without the proper mindset to utilize it. You're looking at it all wrong, Hirazen chuckled. shaking his head in amusement. That wasn't a mistake. Daiki knows exactly what he done. While he was indeed showing off to young Hinata, that was not all he was doing. He was getting in their heads, telling them he knows exactly what they can do and he is not impressed. They in turn know nothing of his abilities and will work themselves into quite the tizzy, no doubt, over trying to counter him. Pure arrogance, Danzo scoffed, unperturbed by the reply he got. That boy Gaara, he's as unstable as they come and his seal is pitifully weak. He can allow the Ichibi out to run amok at a moment's notice, yet this boy sees no threat in him. Last I checked, 3 tails beats 1, Hiruzen smugly pointed out, and of course Daiki has full control over the Sanbi and works together with it. Young Gaara can only let the beast itself run rampant. The Shukaku is no match for Daiki and the Sanbi together. So you say, Danzo huffed. I have yet to see any proof of this wonder boy you have been telling tall tales of and giving such special treatment to having any control over the beast at all, and even if he did, defeating the Shukaku would be no simple matter. The damage it would cost when being brought down would be catastrophic if released within the village. We're not in the village, old man, Daiki's voice echoed from the speakers connected to the camera feed, so stop your whining. Everyone froze, Danzo included at the sudden interruption. Everyone bar the Hokage himself, though, who merely chuckled even louder. For a moment nobody said a thing, such was the surprise at the sudden interruption. Danzo was the one who found his voice first. Well, beyond the Hokage, that was. You can hear us? He asked, surprise evident in his tone despite how he tried to hide it, his one singular eye open wide. I can see the entirety of this forest, and whatever I can see, I can hear. That includes you guys sitting up top in the tower thinking you're all mysterious and shit and observing everyone, Daiki scoffed. The Cage's children aren't a problem. I could beat all 3 of them, even Gaara. His ability to bring out the Ichibi isn't a problem. We're far enough away from the village that I'd have room to clown on it, and I wouldn't let it get that far anyway. I'd seal it off before he ever got the chance. Yes, that, indeed. Hiruzen helpfully added, the amusement plain on his face at seeing his old rival be berated by a child. I was unaware of such an ability. Dear Sarutobi apparently didn't see fit to inform me of such. Danzo quickly regained his calm and gazed dryly with his singular eye at the Hokage. Hiruzen just gave him a pleasant smile. Well, I didn't think you needed to know. You are after all supposed to be on house arrest. He pointed out unrepentantly, I only allowed you out to indulge Kaharu and Homura when they asked after I revealed we had a little chat and invited them here. HMPH, Danzo sniffed, looking away from the Hokage and looking to the screens and the boy taking central stage within them, who was now leaning against one of the walls of the hall he was in, arms crossed and casually looking up. Be that as it may, it is still a risk you foolishly and arrogantly took without needing to. Cool story, bro, Daiki scoffed, and many of the gathered shinobi outright goggled at his disrespect to one of the honored elders of Konoha. Also, just for your knowledge, I wasn't just showing off for Hinata. I was showing off to Temari as well. She's pretty hot, isn't she? It'd be cool to bang a Cage's daughter, I'm thinking. Bro. Those gathered in the viewing room had the distinct and ever so rare opportunity to see Danzo Shimura completely lose his composure and sputter in shock, confusion and a not so little helping of disbelief. Anko snorted and the Hokage's chuckles turned into full-on laughter. Do you not understand the meaning of respect, boy? Danzo couldn't help but ask, goggling at his sheer arrogance to talk to a man of his stature like that. Do you? Daiki countered an instant later, I mean, you were happily running your mouth about me right there without understanding or even knowing a fraction of what I can do. And for the record, yes, I can full-on use the Sanbi's chakra as I please and I can enter Biju mode at will. I just don't show that off because that would be fucking stupid to advertise, unless you think that's a good idea or something. Silence. Danzo had absolutely nothing to say in return. The old mont's hand tightened over his cane and his lips trembled as he looked and tried to find words with which to reply. And failed utterly. Try not to bully Danzo too much. He's a feeble old man these days, Daiki-kun. Hiruzen replied in his stead. Smile still on his face. Also, maybe try not to broadcast your multiple-tailed friend so openly, Those in here can be trusted not to let this information leak, and know as such, but not everyone has the training the ninja in this room have when it comes to guarding secrets. Fair enough, Daiki shrugged. I only brought it up because you guys were already talking about it and obviously already know, and Anko I told personally. Oh, by the way, hey pony girl. He waved at the camera. You really need to work on that tact, brat. Anko shook her head. Pony girl? Oofufufu. I sense an interesting story there. Hiruzen giggled in interest, without any shame at all despite those gathered in the room. Homura sighed, and Kaharu rolled her eyes, well aware of her teammate of multiple decades' perverted side. Hiruzen, really, must you? The old woman asked. The Hokage shrugged. She offered to let me ride her like a pony if I fixed that hickey on her neck. Daiki shamelessly and proudly replied. Dozens of eyes swept over to Anko and gave her a series of stunned looks, the Hokage and Danzo included. In return she shrugged, I'd do pretty much anything to loosen the hold Orochimaru has on me or get rid of it. He's offering one better, Anko admitted aloud. The horny little brat has been pretty upfront about wanting to bang me. If it motivates him and lets him accomplish what he promised, I'll happily do it. Interesting, tell me more. Hiruzen leaned forward in his seat, wiping his nose discreetly. Yes, I quite agree, but on your ability to deal with the cursed seal, not your shameless lustful ways. Kaharu was quick to jump in. And I do hope, young man, that you aren't so easily led astray by some female skin as you seem to be. Strong and talented you may be, an understatement, but even a Jinchuriki will have trouble surviving getting their throat slit after they are led astray by the first pair of large breasts or long legs that try to seduce them outside the village. That wouldn't kill me, Daiki shrugged, but fair enough. So Anko has filled you guys in on the situation with the curse seal? She has. Homura inclined his head, simply speaking for the first time. Right. Well, you probably already know the specifics of what I told her then, Daiki hummed. To get to the point, the real problem with the curse seals are the shards of Orochimaru's soul in them. I can project myself into the seals if it comes to that, but I'll have to fight that shard of Orochimaru and kill it. It won't be anywhere near as hard to kill as the real Orochimaru, because it only has a fraction of his chakra and as such won't be able to use his full power, and I'll be able to use my full power while I'm at it. I'm confident I can do so, but I'm covering my bases first, and learning how he fights and his jutsu from Anko just to make sure. At the mention of his traitorous student, Hiruzen sobered, a frown appearing on his face. How far that boy has fallen. He shook his head in dismay. Still, we may benefit from this. Anko was once one of our brightest and most talented, a rival of Kakashi in talent. If not for that seal, she may have become even stronger than him. There was a reason after all, why one such as Orochimaru had specifically sought her out to take as his own personal apprentice. That'd nice, but I'll take not being able to use my full strength and chakra over being brainwashed by this damn seal any day of the week. Anko shrugged. You won't be waiting much longer, Hiruzen promised. I'll be personally overseeing Daiki's training during the month leading up to the final rounds of the Chunin exams. It was a grand reveal, and it silenced the entire room once more. The fact that the Hokage and legendary professor was personally going to be training the boy. You can't be serious, Danzo hissed. I see you clocked on, old friend, still quick even in your old age, at least sometimes I suppose, Hiruzen chuckled. You want to make this brat Hokage? Danzo demanded. And shock filled the faces of all others within the room. I do. Hiruzen replied, simple with a single nod in confirmation. Hiruzen, truly, is that wise? Homura asked, turning to look at his old friend, and Kaharu nodded in agreement. Yes, for his age he is strong, and his potential is mind-boggling. His ability to reach the level of strength needed is not in question, I dare say, she brought up, but he is so very young still. He has yet to come closest to his maturity and inexperienced still. Things that he will gain in time, and I dare say myself that I am not in any danger of suddenly dying anytime soon, Hiruzen pointed out. I will be training him myself personally, and will be promoting him straight to Jonin once these exams finish. Coming to the aid of Team 7 and driving off my former student is proof enough of his ability to hold the position. Daiki on the screen gave a bit of a start at the old mont's words, but nobody noticed since everyone's attention was on the Hokage and the extremely shocking information he was revealing. After all, everyone within the room was there to hear the Sandaime Hokage's personal choice on who would become the Godame Hokage, history in the making. Foolish, Danzo scoffed, strength and experience, paltry, what we need is a leader that can make the hard choices. Should he become Hokage, it will be revealed that he is a Jinchuriki of a Biju belonging to another village. Mist will bark. Though they are toothless now, so do not matter, but Stone and Cloud, they will threaten and encircle us. Threatened by us possessing another Biju at our beck and call, what will he do then? Placate? A child that has not seen war, has no right to be Ho. I'll destroy their villages if they try it. Daiki cut him off. Thanks to my eyes, I can mask my chakra entirely, Non-consents or see my chakra unless I allow it, even when using the Sanbi's chakra. I can get into any of their villages without them any the wiser and transform into the Sanbi itself and unleash a Bijudama right in the center of their villages. I'll wipe them out and then leave, and that's it. Now will you shut up? Old man Hokage's word is law. So stop your damn whining about it before I decapitate you. I'm sick of your voice already. Danzo was stunned into silence by the threat and proclamation of intent against their enemies. There was absolutely nothing he could say against that. Hiruzen, is he actually capable of such a thing? Koharu asked. Indeed, very much so, the Hokage nodded, though, that should be a very last option Daiki-kun I'd like to have you agree with. Wanton killing on that scale is not something one should so casually decide on. Once again, shock prevailed over all else for most of the room, wide-eyed stares turning to look at the boy on the screen at the Hokage's confirmation. Well obviously, Daiki snorted, I've got no problem killing enemy shinobi or kunoichi, but killing civilians isn't pleasant at all, sickening really. That's just for if Stone or Cloud tried to push their nonsense like they have before, I'll let them see that I can push back harder. I rescind my previous statement, and apologize, Danzo added a moment later as the boy finished. I will not go back on my words that the boy is arrogant and his inexperience shines brightly, but if he has the will to back up those words, then he is a much better candidate than Jiraiya or Kakashi. They wouldn't have the stomach for such a thing. See that you don't soften that edge, Hiruzen. I will try my best. Hiruzen replied, blatantly rolling his eyes. Because of course threatening genocide was what won the boy Danzo's favor. Lovely. Well, if even Danzo is agreeing with you now, then there is nothing much I can do to convince otherwise, Koharu sighed in defeat. We will have to make sure the boy matures though, that is for sure. I'm still here you know. Daiki pointed out at her words. However could I forget? The old woman responded dryly. Hey, I like you lady, Daiki snorted. Too bad you ain't young anymore. I've seen a picture of you in the records. You were pretty hot. I wouldn't have minded you in your younger years helping me mature, if y'all know what I'm saying. Koharu pawned her face. You are a cretin rivaled only by Jiraiya. Thanks, Daiki shamelessly grinned. Now, I've got training to get back to. Need to throw myself back into the grind so I can get even swoller and then I'ma go all Toburama on these bitches in the exam and make Konoha great again. With that said, the boy on the screen pushed up off the wall, his head lowering and looking ahead of him and more or less letting them know he was done speaking. Grind? Swole? Koharu was utterly lost. I don't understand, what does that mean? And why is he bringing Sensei's name into this? A personal quirk of the boys, the grind is what he calls training. Grinding at a whetstone I assume in swole, I'm not sure, but I believe it has something to with his muscles. Hiruzen stroked his chin and hummed. As for the mention of Toburama sensei, it is a joke I'm led to believe that he first started using with young Sasuke-kun because of Toburama sensei's wariness of the Uchiha. HMPH, Homura snorted, Toburama sensei would have been amused. That is not the point, Koharu shook her head, to use the honored Nidaime Hokage's name like that. How disrespectful can one boy be? You should look into giving the boy lessons in etiquette before he mouths off to someone and starts a war. The older generation fell into a discussion of the boy, and Enko watched on blankly. Who knew the kid was actually such a big shot, she mused. When he returned to his room, Daiki got straight back to the grind. There wasn't a lot of room. He so ended up sealing all the furniture of the bedroom inside his dimension force sealed to free up some space. Even then it wasn't exactly much to work with, it was a small 13 feet by 13 feet space after all. He could jump to Isobu's dimension and leave a clone behind at any time, but he decided not to. He had the camera in his room covered so none could watch him, but he couldn't be sure of just when somebody would next seek him out. Somebody that a simple shadow clone wouldn't fool easily, especially after his little mouthing off episode against Danzo. I should have, 6967. Just kept my mouth shut, 6968. But the guy just pisses me off, 6969. Hey, nice. He mused inwardly as he went through one-handed, handstand push-ups. If there was ever someone that should have, retard, branded across their forehead, it was Danzo fucking Shimura. The amount of shit Daiki would have to take care of in the future just because of that moron's absolutely massive fuck-ups was insane. The two most blatant being finding a way to make sure Sasuke didn't go full-on Avenger and want to destroy the Leaf after he eventually found out the truth of the Uchiha massacre and deal with Nagato, or as he called himself now, Pain. Pain who got the better of Sage Mode Naruto even with help. Far from Naruto's strongest form come the end, Daiki mused. But monstrous all the same. A simple clone of Naruto in Sage Mode defeated the third Raikage. The third Raikage whom fought Gyuki, the eight-tailed Biju, to a draw. Even with Isobu backing him up, and the time he had, that was going to be a hell of a level to reach. And all because of fucking Danzo. That wasn't even getting into the fact if he wasn't such an utter clown, the entire Uchiha clan would still be around right now, brainwashed to be loyal, and he'd have the strength of Itachi and Shisui to count on. Now that would be a lineup he could get behind. Daiki himself, Naruto, Sasuke, Itachi, Shisui, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, Guy. Granted, Tsunade was a long shot, but with all of them even barring her, Orochimaru wouldn't have dared start his shit like he was doing now. Hell, Sand wouldn't have the balls to either. So yes, when he was keeping track of those watching him and he found Danzo running his mouth about him, Daiki couldn't stop from cutting in and flexing all over the old prick. The oddest thing of it all though, well one of them at least, was the fact that Danzo backed down after Daiki threatened to cut his head off for backtalking the Hokage and admitting his big plan for making the likes of Stone and Cloud back down if they threatened war if things really did spiral on towards the road of him becoming Hokage. It was a simple, yet incredibly genius stratagem if he did say so himself. Threatened to Bijudama them. After infiltrating the village and letting them know not a single person could sense or find him if he so desired. If he wanted to disappear, there really was nobody that could stop him, and they couldn't stop him from coming and going either, not without bringing down a fully realized Biju mode perfect Jinchuriki. He'd be showing off a bunch of his cards if it came to it, which he'd rather keep close to the chest, but if it came down to it, he'd do it. He wouldn't allow Ae and Onoki to dig their teeth in and shake him for all they could like they did the Sandame when the leaf was still recovering and had to play nice. No, he'd just go to the opposite end and go full genocide if he had to. That apparently was something Danzo could get behind though, and he literally retracted complaint about Daiki being in line to be the next Hokage. And wasn't that a bother? With all of the people there in the room during the reveal, including the Hokage's advisors and Danzo, it was pretty much official that he was now being groomed for the Hokage hat. He couldn't take that back now even if he tried. It would be a total bad look for him. So he now had no option but to run straight down that path and make sure Old Man Third lived through the Konoha crush if he didn't want to find himself the leader of the Land of Fire. The workload wouldn't really be a problem with his clones, the big issue was that he wouldn't exactly be able to leave the village much since he would be the leader. Which meant a bunch of things that he couldn't just send others to fetch for him, would be out of his reach. Especially one of the most important of all. The Ryamakyu, the dragon veins. A massive source of powerful chakra comparable to a Biju in scope, sealed beneath the ruins of the city Rorin in the Land of Rivers, close to the border of the Land of Wind. And for all intents and purposes, what he planned to use to empower Isobu and make him even stronger. So that's what your full big plan is, to make me stronger? You've been tight-lipped about it and even hiding most of your thoughts from me about it. I admit you had me curious, Isobu hummed. Converting all that chakra into my own would take a significant amount of time. Time you would not have to freely spend outside the village as Hokage. Exactly, so unless he got access to a teleportation jutsu like the Flying Thunder God, he was up shit creek without a paddle on that front if the Sandame died. Well, you could always send an amped clone over there and have it absorb the chakra with your torso armor and the infinite armor and transfer it directly to you, and then you could filter it through to me. Isobu pointed out, though I'm unsure if even the pair of them could handle all of that chakra, and multiple trips might need to be made. Well, that could be an option. And it wasn't like his clones had some limited range they could go from him. After all, they were in a literal separate dimension right now and he still got their memories and chakra if they popped. And he could handle some of the chakra carrying himself thanks to the chakra absorption seal he'd added to the Dimension Force seal. Still being confined to the village would suck absolute donkey cock, and that wasn't a euphemism for his own mighty epically big dick. And besides beyond that, there were a bunch of other things he wanted to get his hands on. Like a demonic hydra and its army of 8,000 stone golems that could each tank a Rasengan to the face without trouble. I mean, I could lend my full power to a clone of yours and they would have no issue beating down this Moroku, Isobu pointed out. Daiki grimaced. It would take all the fun out of things though, just sending my clones off to do everything for me. I want to run around, beat up demons, seduce priestesses and princesses and have fun, he burst out, full on whining. Then have an amped clone stay back in the village and you go out, simple as that. Isobu deadpanned. Damn it, this guy had an answer for everything. It's called common sense, though I can understand that being a foreign phrase to you, with you being, well you. Isobu snorted. Common sense? That sounded like something only a little pansy would lee. There was a knock on the door cutting of Daiki's thoughts and he sighed, cutting off the mental conversation with his inner spirit tortoise. He pushed himself up to land on his feet and made his way over the door. As he expected, someone had come to visit him. Night had fallen now and the other genin had returned to their own assigned rooms. He'd been training for hours at this point. The only question was who? Well, he could just look through the door itself and see, but that would take the fun out of it. Who will it be? He mused, grasping the doorknob. Hinata, Danzo, Old Man Third, Anko maybe. Daiki pulled the door open and blinked at whom he saw. It wasn't anyone he expected at all. A tall cream-skinned sandy blonde with glacial teal eyes, her hair done up in 4 pigtails and adorned in a short pale pink dress with fishnet underneath. Temari of the Hidden Sand. I'm not gonna lie, Daiki said in lieu of greeting, leaning on the doorframe and smirking at the older girl. You are the last person I expected to come visit little old me. Temari glared at him. Were you expecting Gaara instead? She challenged. Ooh, how feisty, Kitty came with her claws unsheathed he saw. Not really actually, but I'd still see Raccoon Boy coming my way before you. Daiki shrugged before taking an idle sweeping glance around with his eyes, peering through the walls all around him. Konkuro wasn't anywhere nearby, in fact, he was downstairs in one of the bathrooms working doing what appeared to be maintenance on his puppets. Weird place to do so, but he wouldn't judge. It seemed Big Sis waited for her little brother to be occupied before slinking away to stealthily confront him. My, how scandalous. Temari grimaced at his words, you know. She uttered those 2 words simply, eyes narrowing even more. Hey, if she compressed her gaze any further she might end up firing beams of chakra at him. Pew pew. Know what? His smirk grew tauntingly. I mean, you'll have to be more specific. I know a lot of things. How to get strong quick, how to taunt like nobody's business. The meaning of the life, the color of your underwear, green looks good on you by the way, how to make a mean protein-filled breakfast that's great for growing muscle. And of course everything about their little plan, more than her even considering she didn't know her father was currently a rotting corpse right now. Or would be soon. Temari's face scrunched up in confusion, completely taken aback by his reply before shaking his head. Don't take me for a fool, besides, you're completely wrong, my underwear is blue, she huffed. His smirk grew to shit-eating proportions. Blue huh, good to know. He nodded. He could have of course just looked through her clothing at any time, but where was the fun in that? It would be way too easy. Temari blinked, suddenly realizing just what he'd gotten her to reveal, but to his surprise, instead of getting angry about it or raging, she sighed and rolled her eyes. You're one cocky smart aleck kid. Has anyone ever told you that? She responded, voice dry. Something like that. There's this one Jonin, she's all about me being all cocky, he shrugged. I have no interest in your sex life kid. Temari caught on instantly and rolled her eyes again. Now, may I come in? I want to speak to you about what you were so casually throwing around earlier about me and my siblings. Huh, and here you thought I was hot as shit earlier, Daiki pointed out, but sure, come on in. Far be it for me to refuse letting such a pretty girl in my room, however temporary. He pushed off the door frame and stepped aside, gesturing for her to do so. Temari entered and gave him a real surprised look. How did you know that? She asked, startled. You just told me, he replied smugly. He didn't even need to reveal the fact he read her thoughts earlier for that. Damn Konoha brat. Temari glared at him once more, losing that cool facade she had on her face. Hey. Riling her up would be fun for sure. Temari shook her head and released a deep breath, regaining her cool, and then stopped and stared, confused as she saw the state of his room for the duration of his stay. That being the fact that it was completely empty. What the hell is with your room? Temari looked over her shoulder to give him an odd glance. Did you toss out all of the furniture? I stored it in a ceiling space actually, Daiki informed the sandy blonde. It was getting in the way of training you see, can't let precious time that I can dedicate to the grind go to waste. He explained, and clenched one fist while curling his arm, making his bicep pop out vividly. Big, round and powerful, the fully visible veins trailing down just highlighting the power within these grind-gained muscles. You're training in the middle of an exam? She asked incredulously, but her eyes were locked on his arm, before she managed to drag her gaze away and up to look him in the eyes. Of course I am. You don't expect me to sit around doing nothing like some lazy bum, do you? It was Daiki's turn to give her an incredulous stare. Seriously, do you know how much I can get done in 4 days? 4 days was enough to make his physical stats go up by 2. Though, considering how much harder it was making them go up the stronger he got, that may soon go down to 1 and below that even. By his estimates, by time he broke the 400 mark, it would take over a week of high-intensity training just to go up a single physical point, if not more, and it would only get even harder from there. And that wasn't even getting into the fact that with his clones he could master multiple jutsu in just a span of 4 days. As it was though, he needed to take advantage of every single day he had at his disposal. Not a single one could be wasted without gaining something from it. Otherwise, by time things really started to roll downhill, he wouldn't be able to keep up at all. Temari raised an eyebrow. Rest is important between training as well, she pointed out, especially with the fact that if this is anything like any other Chunin exams, there will be an exam after this one with full-on head-to-head combat. It could be 1 versus 1 or it could even be team versus team, and I don't think I need to explain which one would be bad for you, being all alone and all. Rest is important for muscle and fatigue recovering chakra. Daiki nodded in agreement. I'm just built different than your average guy though. I only need a fraction of the time anyone else would need. An hour at best to recover from intense training that would leave you gaping in awe. Hell, technically speaking, he didn't even need to sleep. Isobu could charge his body at any time and wash away any physical fatigue quite easily. Or at least, he could go massive amounts of time without sleep thanks to that if he so desired. He didn't mind you, mostly because mental fatigue was still a thing that would grind him down and throw him off of his game, and he actually liked sleeping. Especially since he sprung for a really comfortable mattress not long ago, and his sheets were such soft lovely silk. Who said only nobles and rich clan punks got to enjoy the finer things in life? Motherfucker, he was the Sanbi Jinchuiki Lord Daiki-sama. As nice as it is that you're so proud of being my Jinchuriki, you're going way off track. Isobu deadpanned. Oh, right. Nobody likes a braggart. Well, either way it isn't my problem if you screw yourself over in the long run. Temari shrugged, turning away from him and idly glancing over the empty room they were in. Now, enough of the snark and sarcasm. I came here to talk to you for a reason. If you want to see me naked, it'll cost you. He quipped with a snort, eyes tracing over her back. And not actually ogling at the curvature of her hips and the swell of her pert-ass cheeks through that dress of hers. But rather taking in the folded form of her giant fan. With his eyes, he could see deep into the makeup of the weapon. The metal of it was lined with chakra ore, wind chakra ore at that. He knew enough to recognize the look of it now since he had a few blades made of the stuff himself, and there were some interesting seals inscribed within it. Shoddy work to be honest. Even Orochimaru's hack seal was much higher on the scale. The seal matrix wasn't even locked, but intuitive and quite interesting. From his idle inspection, it seemed that it was a seal to amplify wind chakra. Probably to make up for the fact that only about 30% or so of the fan's metal was wind chakra ore. By time Temari turned back around, eyes rolling at his quip, he'd already memorized the seal matrix and made a mental note to improve upon it and edit it to make seals that amplified all the other elements while he was at it. It would make a good reference for deciphering the seal work within the Kiba blades. You know, you're hot kid, I won't lie, but you're not that hot, Temari scoffed. Now, let's stop dancing around the topic. How do you know about my brother? She demanded. Daiki smirked and opened his mouth. Gaara, not Konkuro before you give me the runaround again. She cut him off before he could say anything. Huh, was he that predictable? Or was she just that smart? Guess that joke about his war paint being makeup he stole from Temari herself would have to be sheathed for another time. Well, whatever, ruin his fun, why doesn't she? Who doesn't know about your brother? Daiki rolled his eyes and crossed his arms. Anyone who knows what a Jinchuriki is and is smart knows who the Biju holders are. They were fucking war deterrents for a reason. Killer Bee, Yugito, Han and Roshi were all in the bingo books for fuck's sake. And if Fu was to be believed, she was in the Iwa version of the bingo book. She liked to brag about that fact sometimes since he wasn't in any official bingo books. Yet, hell, your brother is a running joke. Daiki added with a snort. At least to him. A joke? Gaara is a joke? Temari goggled at him, gobsmacked. Of course he is, Daiki barked a laugh. Look at the state of him. If there was ever a picture-perfect example of a failure of a Jinchuriki, your little brother would be right on the money. The gobsmacked look faded quickly and Temari glared at him hotly. Gaara is the greatest weapon of the Hidden Sand Village. The only person capable of defeating him is our father, the Case Cage. She spat angrily, the disrespect against her little brother bringing out what appeared to be a protective rage. You were bragging to your little leaf friends earlier in the mess hall and throwing little digs at him. Don't think I didn't notice, but you're nothing compared to Gaara. He's near unbeatable, and not someone a mere leaf genin could ever hope to even scratch. The fact he's the greatest weapon of your village while he's so weak is the funniest part of it all. It makes your village look like a giant circus. Daiki shot back, jutting his chin out at her defiantly, egging her on. And your father the Case Cage is the big lead clown. Big honking red nose and all, honk honk. You, Temari floundered looking for words to fire back. But the sheer insult he levied at her village, her brother and father all at once stunned her mightily. Where do you get off? I think you'd be better at getting me off hot stuff, Daiki retorted. Besides, you obviously can't tell me you don't see it. You seem like a smart chick. See what? She ground her teeth and commanded him to reveal. Go on. Tell me what obvious answer I seem to be missing, you overly horny little fool. He's got it tattooed on his fucking forehead. If that wasn't a cry for help then I don't know what is. He answered with a scoff. Love, your brother's a psycho from sheer loneliness and questioning his worth all his life. That's what happens to kids avoided and treated like a demon all their life. And he is weak, mentally and physically. He relies on the power of his biju, and that won't do shit against me. Temari didn't reply. Her hands were clenched at her sides so hard they shook and she continued to glare at him. But she had no words to refute him. He could see the realization in her eyes. Course, it isn't your fault, and not your village's either really, Daiki shrugged. Dear old Papa Case Cage is to blame, both for the joke your village has become and the running laugh anyone high up has about your brother being some ultimate weapon. Fucking hell. That twat Rasa sent off Bakura to her death, pretty much the strongest ninja of Suna bar himself. The sandy pigtailed blonde grimaced. Your brother is a failure of a Jinchuriki because he doesn't control the power of his biju. It controls him, Daiki pushed on. Do you know what you need to control the power of a biju? Willpower. That's it, it's a simple thing, but something your little brother utterly lacks in, because he has nothing, he's utterly alone in the world. As such, he has nothing worth fighting for besides himself. He has no hobbies, he can't sleep because of that trashy seal holding the one tail, and he has nobody to make his life worth living, and because of that, he's only got a fraction of the strength he would have, and like that, he's not even close to a match for me. His words shook Temari so much, the sandy blonde actually stuttered back a step away from him. How do you know all this? She couldn't help but ask in a whisper. It seemed the home truths he'd dropped on her had rocked her core. Well, she was the one that came here demanding answers over a few taunts and bragging statements. Please, this isn't shocking to know at all. Daiki rolled his eyes. Everyone in your village pretty much knows this, and so any visitor learns it easily. And everyone in the elemental nations knows your father is so pathetic the wind daimyo is coming to Konoha for mission requests. Then again, how can one expect a clown to lead an entire village of tens of thousands when he can't even care for his own damn son? Temari's eyes were horrified for all of a few seconds at his words. Before she closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath and centered herself. Annoyingly, your words aren't wrong. I've long been unhappy with Gaara's treatment, and your words have merit behind them. She admitted and then crossed her arms and stared him in the eye. True as a lot of it has been. Gaara has the full power of the Shukaku at his fingertips and the ultimate defense. You've yet to provide any proof of your strength and ability to beat him, just ran your mouth a lot. Her self-control was quite impressive. If I end up fighting Gaara, I'll gladly prove how much stronger I am than him. Daiki shrugged. Unless that is, you want to make me prove my strength right here and now? In response, Temari smirked. Finally, that's what I came here for in the first place. A little test to see if you're all talk or not. Her hand went up over her shoulder grasping the heavy metal base of her fan, and then in a blur, she pulled it over her shoulder and swung it at him. A single step back made sure it swept right through the area where his face was a moment ago. Oh, not bad. Daiki blinked and found himself complimenting. By his estimates, with how much metal was compressed into that giant fan, and the size of it, it had to be at least 150 pounds in weight, and she swung it around like a light stick at blurring speeds. Temari's eyes narrowed and she said nothing, instead palming the base of the giant fan with her other hand and expertly twirling it like a staff with both hands like a helicopter blade, and lashed out at him in a blindingly fast barrage of melee strikes. She was impressively strong, fast and skilled in close combat for a long-ranged specialist, that was for sure. Yet, despite that, Daiki barely moved an inch from where he stood as he ducked and weaved around her strikes. He was just that much faster than her and could see the next move coming before she even fully started with it. He also wasn't that nice of a guy that he would let some girl from another village attack him in his own village without consequence. Or in any other village for that matter. He also, for example, could seal his weights away in an instant, becoming 20,000 pounds lighter. He ducked under one strike and then moved. Temari's eyes widened as he outright disappeared from her vision. That was how fast he moved. And then a ripping sound filled the room and Daiki appeared behind her, a familiar pale pink dress in hand. Eyeing her from behind with a smirk on his face. His eyes greedily taking in the sight of her firm, round ass clad in only fishnet. And a powder blue thong that looked ever so delicious on her hips. It took Temari a second to realize what happened and she whirled around, eyes wide in shock. "You, how?" she gaped, not even bothering to cover her front and showing off her near enough fully naked breasts to him. Large perky creamy melons topped with cherry pink nipples that poked through the fishnet. "I'm just that FA," he began answering, eyes on her breasts and memorizing their shape and every contour. He tilted his head to the side as Temari tried to smash his head in with her fan while he was busy answering and ogling her tits. "TCH. She clicked her tongue in annoyance. "Well, you're not shy, that's for sure." Daiki laughed. She literally used his distraction in ogling her and replying to try and smash his head in. "Good on her. I'm a kunoichi, and not one like those little girls you hang around with that would lock up or get embarrassed over a little nudity," Temari huffed, slamming her fan into the ground beside her and leaning on it. "Looks like you're not just all talk, I guess. Not that this little bout was all that impressive. I'm a ninjutsu specialist. I'm just good enough in close to get by. You know, it's actually not that hard to compliment people," Daiki snorted, like for example, "Hey Temari, you have some really nice tits. They look real soft and I bet would feel real good in my hands." "You'll have to just wonder about that." Temari rolled her eyes and then held out her hand. "Gimme my dress." "How about no?" Daiki countered and lifted it up, idly spinning it in the air above his head. "I think I'll keep it." Temari stared at him for a moment, before huffing, "Whatever, I've done what I came here to do," she replied and boldly turned around and walked towards the door, opening it, not caring at all that she was nude for the most part. She paused just before she stepped out and looked over her shoulder at him. "Keep the dress if you want. It might make your last few dreams memorable before you get crushed by Gaara after needling him like you did. He has his eyes on you now." And then she boldly left the room behind and walked down the hall to her own. Daiki watched directly through the walls as she did. Huh. He blinked. That was not at all how he expected that to go when he pulled the dress off of her. Granted, she didn't exactly have far to go to get to her room, and nobody was around to see her, especially with her brothers not being in her room. Well, she was interesting, impressive as her tits and ass were. Daiki found himself more impressed by her mental resiliency. He dropped quite a few bombs of revelation on her and she was, while shocked and overwhelmed initially, was quick to regain her cool. Chucking, he walked over and closed the door, idly examining the dress in his hands. How fun, he mused. Just then, there was a puff of smoke at his side and Daiki looked up from the pale pink dress in his hands to look over in surprise. When the smoke faded, a familiar pink-scaled chameleon came into view. Though, she was a lot smaller than usual. Toka? Daiki blinked in surprise. Why are you so small? Because I felt like it, and obviously I couldn't enter such a narrow space at my full size. No, Toka replied as if such a thing were obvious. I wouldn't exactly be very good at stealth and infiltrating at my usual size now, would I? You can change your size? Daiki's eyes widened. That was obvious for sure with her here and now, but it was very interesting to know. A staple of the chameleon clan, though we can only shrink and return to our full sizes, a reverse application of that same jutsu those akamichi of your village tend to use, Toka shrugged. Something you'll no doubt learn in the future. Once you can match up to the sensing ability of the whelps of our clan, that is, without relying on those silly eyes of yours. Huh, neat, he could think of so many ways to use that kind of thing. You jealous you don't have eyes as badass as mine? He taunted her. Toka rolled her eyes and scoffed. Hardly, unlike you I don't need to rely on a crutch for something so simple, she fired back. Gah! Right in the pride. Daiki coughed. So, what's up? He changed the topic, for no reasons, he just felt like it. 100% truth. Totally, she rolled her ripple-like eyes again, but didn't call him out on it and instead walked over and hopped up onto his shoulder, perching on it comfortably. Right now, she was about 10 inches long at most. Show me your hand, she ordered him. What a demanding little lizard princess. Daiki did as bid and held up his hand. So why do you? He began asking, only for his eyes to widen as she opened her mouth and extended her long tongue out and dropped a small glowing green pebble into his palm. This is. He gaped in shock. I took the liberty of grabbing the stone you wanted from that ferret, and as you planned, I left behind a small fragment of it within the annoying little beast to keep it alive, Toka explained. I thought I'd save the trouble of bringing it back here to you then taking it back as you initially intended. Daiki said nothing and just stared in shock at the fragment from the stone of Gelel in his hand. Then slowly he started to chuckle and before long he threw his head back and released a full-bellied laughter that echoed through the room, bouncing off the walls and reverberating, ominously. I see by your demented laugh that you are pleased, Toka commented idly, making him shut up. Hey, my laugh is powerful and intimidating, not demented, he growled. You keep telling yourself that, the pink chameleon snorted. By the way, that clan was a decent challenge to find, though we found them traveling through the land of rivers, and interestingly, not far from them, I came across an odd ancient temple that the old man you told me of seemed to be trying to avoid. Daiki's eyes widened. Wait, it's not in another continent, it's here? He thought, shocked. And not only that, but it was in the fucking land of rivers as well? What the fuck? No seriously, what the hell was up with the land of rivers and all the good shit there? It should seriously be renamed to the land of loot for crying out loud. This is good. Daiki couldn't help but give out another ominous, not demented laughter. When he got around to having Isobu slurp up the Ryamaku, he could go after the Gelel stone veins as well, which should be comparable to the Ryamaku itself as well. With the Ryamaku and the Gelel stone veins, could he perhaps not become a match for Kurama? Unlikely, going by your memories, while both together will give me quite the boost, I believe at best, I will gain power comparable to Chome, and as you know, Chome doesn't come close to the power of Kurama. Isobu dashed those hopes. Yeah, Chome got their shit clapped by Kurama, even with Son Goku, Seiken, Kakuo, Matabi and Isobu himself backing them up. And that was only half power Kurama. But still, that would be a significant jump in power regardless, and there was always other avenues to explore. For now though, it was time to put some more plans into motion, such as sealing this fragment of Gelel inside his heavenly star seal. His chakra had changed color again. Originally, cliché as it was, his chakra was a light cyan blue. Also ironic considering he disliked light blue because it gave him headaches in his other life when looking at it too long. It wasn't a bad color really, but he didn't like large swaths of it and preferred it merely for decoration trimming and such. When he became the Jinchuriki of Isobu and his chakra coils became constantly exposed to Isobu's own, his chakra not only became denser, but darked in color becoming a dark blue. Much more his style. When he gained the cursed seal and absorbed all the chakra of Orochimaru's soul fragment, his chakra darkened once more, becoming a royal purple. Which then became an even darker purple after he remodeled the cursed seal into the heavenly star seal. Now though, hours after his meeting with Temari and Toka returned to him, the color of his chakra had radically shifted once more. Now, after sealing the stone or rather fragment of Gelel into the heavenly star seal on his shoulder and setting it up in the same way as the star chakra, the color of Daiki's own chakra had shifted into a dark green that seemed to almost border on gray. Timber green actually. Isobu helpfully corrected him as he stood in the middle of his provided bedroom for the next few days, a blaze of chakra covering his hand and examining it in interest. Timber green, huh? Not a bad name for chakra of a leaf ninja. Daiki snorted in amusement. Still, it wasn't like he could complain at all. It wasn't like the change of color in his chakra was a bad thing. Quite the opposite, it had become even more dense and powerful, and on top of that, much easier to control. He supposed that made sense considering that loser Hado learned to control the power from the Stone of Gelel extremely quickly after getting a hold of it. And it wasn't just his chakra that felt stronger and easier to control. His body itself felt like it had grown quite a decent bit stronger over the last few hours after he got used to the influx of power from the fragment of Gelel. And his healing factor was amped massively as well. He'd slashed his hand not long ago to check and it had sizzled and healed up within seconds. Jinchuriki healing factor plus the regeneration from the fragment of Gelel that was a match for Naruto's own in the other timeline, made for a potent combination. Honestly, he was super curious to see how it reflected on his status screen and to see if it had actually increased or if it would even show up at all, because when using his Jinchuriki cloak forms, his status screen never reflected that. It was weird. Still so many questions left unanswered about it. Status, he thought, shaking his head. Name, Daiki Yurei. Age, 13. Chakra capacity, 170,000, low-tier cage. Strength, 198, endurance, 275, durability, 197. Agility, 197, taijutsu, 205 500s, ninjutsu, 295 hundreds. Genjutsu, 45 500s, bukajutsu, 125 hundreds, chakra control, 259 500s. Chakra affinities. Lightning, advanced, roar with the power of thunder. Water, expert, the sea parts before you. Fuinjutsu, advanced, the breath hitches. His chakra capacity had risen nearly 10,000 in the last few days. A decent little jump already from the massive jump he'd gained from his little run-in with Orochimaru. Granted, that wasn't all from the fragment of Gelel. The star chakra, Isobu's chakra, and his eyes made sure his chakra capacity was passively growing constantly. And of course he had a bunch of shadow clones training it out right now, which made his chakra capacity grow through training it. Still, even with all that, the growth was noticeable from last night, he knew. And beyond that, interestingly, his physical abilities had indeed grown, as had his chakra control apparently. Each had grown by roughly, near 20 points each by his estimation after gaining the fragment of Gelel. That was great. That was weeks worth of training right there. He was close to breaking 200 on most of his physical abilities and closing in on 300 with endurance. Man, I'm a total beast. Daiki grinned as he stared at the status screen. Getting there I suppose, give it a few years and I might allow you to claim as so in truth. Isobu piped in. Daiki blinked. And who made you the beast title, police? He asked with a snort. I am a tailed beast, remember? It's in the name. Right now I'm afraid, Daiki. You can only claim to be a beast by proxy because of me, not of your own merit. Too bad, so sad. Isobu replied, smugly. You know, you were made out to be the nice polite one of you nine. Daiki replied with a pout. All you do is bully me though, he whined. I am the polite nice one. You already know what headcases my siblings are, Isobu retorted, and I'm just doing my civic duty to deflate that ego a bit here and there before it inflates your head so much you fly off to space. Before Daiki could think of something to fire back with, Isobu coughed. Anyway, it's not just the power of your chakra and abilities that have increased. You probably can't tell yourself right now, but I am chakra itself given form and your chakra is part of your very life force. The three-tailed Biju brought up. And so what are you getting at? Daiki asked. He already had a pretty good idea, of course, since it was perhaps the main reason he actually went for this fragment of Gelel, but he couldn't exactly confirm if it was working himself. Isobu apparently could. The energy of Gelel, it's not quite chakra, it's more akin to the natural energy being absorbed into your heavenly star seal at a rough guess. Though I cannot be fully sure on that part until we actually learn how to sense natural energy, Isobu continued. Still, it is incredibly pure, and as it increases your chakra, so does it enhance your life force. Already through since yesterday, I estimate that your max living age has increased by near a year, 8 months if I had to narrow it down fully, and will increase by that amount daily so long as that fragment in your seal continues to pass its energy to you. That was very good to know. It meant he would recover the lifespan he'd given up with the hero's water, roughly 10 years in just over 2 weeks. 8 months per day, which would be roughly around between 2,900 and 3,000 in a year, which in months would equate to around 120 years. A lot different from how it worked in the other timeline. Perhaps a change somehow because this was a different universe, maybe. But then, that didn't really make sense either. The full stone is not without its drawbacks. The pure energy, I theorize, gives a mutated form, just like the way the cursed seal does, which is another reason I'm guessing it is akin to natural energy. Isobu already had an answer for that as well apparently. You are not using the full power of the stone, but rather purifying and filtering its energy into your own, gaining only beneficial traits, if at the cost of some instant strength. In this sense, it is more akin to you drawing from that fragment and making your chakra become Gelel chakra itself, a source of its own growing from the ground up. Perhaps in the future your chakra will have innate healing properties to it? That does make sense. After all, I can't feel anything like a transformation coming from my energy. Daiki mused, crossing his arms in thought. And it wouldn't be that hard to draw on and transform if it was anything like the cursed seal. After all, Sasuke could use his level 2 transformation without any training whatsoever just from drawing more on the cursed seal. He wasn't the type to toot his own hoe. Yes you are. Isobu deadpanned. But he was pretty damn skilled if he did say so himself. And he had Isobu backing him up. Between the two of them, if there was a transformation, they'd have found it real quick. Since they hadn't, it made sense Daiki didn't have a transformation coming from the energy. As it should be, the only transformations you need are my forms, Isobu added. Daiki quite agreed with that. Plus, if he transformed into some weird mutated bat or wolf thing, it would make his chakra cloak and shit look way less epic. Hell, if he gained fur or something, people probably wouldn't even be able to see the badass tattoos he got from his heavenly star seal. Wait, what about Sage Mode? Daiki asked. That is less a transformation and more an augmentation of your base form. It gets a pass. Biju Sage Mode is definitely something we should acquire in the future if we can, Isobu replied. Phew. Also, by the way, your math was totally off. In a year you would accumulate 243 years worth of life force. The huge tortoise Biju then added on. You should slow down a bit when calculating in your head. Then again, I suppose you even managing simple times tables is a massive feat considering all your brain power revolves around your precious grind and figuring out how to punch harder. Hey, Daiki narrowed his eyes. You can insult me all you want, buddy. I know you love me really, but watch your tone when talking about the most holy lifestyle. The worst of it is, you actually do pretty much worship it, Isobu groaned. Konoha better hope the Sandaime Hokage survives this little invasion coming up. Otherwise they'll find themselves as a whole forced into an all-new religion and possible cult. Daiki opened his mouth to reply, before pausing. That's not actually a bad idea, he mused. Isobu shut up instantly. Yeah, I like it. If I become Hokage, I'll make the grind mandatory for all ninja and ninja in training. Really boost the performance of my ninja minions. Daiki nodded to himself. That way they'll be way more useful in the future instead of just fodder I'll have to waste energy protecting if things spiral into a big ol' war like they did in the other timeline. I should practice what I preach and watch what I say. Isobu groaned in defeat. Are you quite done? Toka's voice broke him out of his mental conversation. Daiki looked over to the opposite end of the room, where a single bed sat pressed up against the wall and a familiar pink-scaled chameleon lay resting atop his pillow in her shrunken form. More or less. He shrugged. He wasn't actually sure why she had stuck around. Generally whenever she had finished a task for him or finished training with him, she disappeared off back to her homeland. Good, she nodded simply. I must say, watching your face shift through such a variety of ridiculous expressions was rather nauseating. At one point you even had a rather horrid grin on your face that would not look at all out of place on the face of a serial killer. Ouch. I am a serial killer. He deadpanned at her. He'd honestly lost track of how many people he'd killed, but he was betting it was over 100 by this point at least. Bandits were absolute clowns that never learned. Even when doing minor D-rank missions outside the village, it wasn't that rare to run into a few of them. They were like roaches, to be honest. They weren't at all a threat, but just when you think you had stamped them out, a few more popped up out of the tracks and loitered around the forests looking for travelers. Which never really worked out well for them, 'cause they tended to get swatted by any passing shinobi if they came across them. Slightly true I suppose, though there is a difference, Toka mused lazily. Still, I advise you not to show faces like that around the female population. You will surely be unable to attract a mate while wearing such a ghastly expression. Trust me, I have no problems on that front. Daiki rolled his eyes. Well, maybe. Granted, he was lacking entirely on the romance front and only had a booty call and a hot older woman offering to bang him if he did something epic for her. Even Naruto and Sasuke had actual girls interested in romance and a proper relationship and love with them. Gah, how depressing. So is there a reason you're still hanging around? Daiki asked. shaking his head and putting those thoughts out of mind before he got so depressed he started listening to country ballads and songs about heartbreak, then busted out the tubs of ice cream. "Is it a problem for you that I'm still here?" Toka asked instead of answering the question. "Nah, I like having you around despite how much of a bitch you were to me." He shrugged, "Just curious since you tend to split when you feel like you've done what you needed to." "Perhaps I wouldn't be so much of a bitch, as you so crudely put it, if you were not such an incompetent musclehead." Toka rolled her ringed eyes. "As for why I am here, I have no duties currently within the clan and have some free time, and soon you shall be participating in a competitive bout. No, I thought to stay around and see the great Chameleon clan's chosen summoner show his power off to others for a bit and enjoy myself." "Also," she added before he could say anything else and narrowed her eyes at him seriously, "you had a run-in with the main summoner and contract holder of the Snake Clan. Father wishes to keep an eye on the situation, just in case grandfather is brought into battle against you." "Huh, that was right, wasn't it?" Mando was actually her grandfather. Honestly, it was quite the pedigree. The daughter of the one who would become one of Pain's main summons and the granddaughter of the personal summoned beast of the Snake Sanin. "Fair enough, feel free to stick around as long as you want," Daiki shrugged. Personally, he wasn't all that fussed about the snake summons. Chameleons were clearly superior. "Actually, that reminds me. I gave another search mission to your clan to find something for me near 2 days ago. How is that?" "The Uchiha corpse?" "Yes." Toka cut him off. "We already found it. You already had the location for it after all. We have been keeping a hold of it for now since you were busy and we did not want to just leave it at your estate." Daiki's eyes widened. "You found it?" he gasped, a massive grin spreading across his face. "Chameleons seriously were the best, no doubt. Yes, though it is in a very poor state." Toka shrugged her scaly shoulders. "It hasn't decomposed too much, but it has been partially eaten by the aquatic wildlife within the Naka River and what is left of the corpse is quite waterlogged, and beyond that, it lacks eyes as well. I have no idea why you wanted it, to be honest. Without the Sharingan, the corpse of an Uchiha is rather useless." "You let me worry about that." Daiki waved her off. "Can you bring it here?" "I suppose, give me a moment." Toka agreed and a second later, disappeared in a puff of smoke. Daiki wasn't waiting long. A mere minute at most passed before another puff of smoke signified the return of Toka. She was prudent like that. When the smoke dissipated, it was to show Toka still in her miniature form, standing beside a bloated, soaking piece of flab. Daiki grimaced. For all intents and purposes, Shisui Uchiha had been a pretty handsome guy. From what he remembered, he had the pretty boy looks of a typical Uchiha, yet at the same time, his features were more masculine than say Sasuke. Now, he, or rather was left of him, looked more like a fat, bloated tumor of skin that seemed to leak a disgusting watery substance from each and every pore. And that wasn't even getting into the fact that there were tons of great big rents in the body all over the surface, as if tons of creatures had taken to nibbling on it from time to time. It was a wonder it hadn't just become a skeleton at this point. But then, Shisui was just built different from your typical person. He was near an S-class shinobi when he died. His body was just that much tougher than an average person, that it was taking longer for his body to decay. Still, it wasn't exactly a pretty sight, and it was a horrible look for such a cool guy. "I still do not understand what good this body will do you," Toka mused, casting it an indifferent glance, "unless you've went all mad scientist like the snake contract holder and planned to clone this Uchiha." "No, nothing like that," Daiki replied, eyes on the corpse. His scarlet-red eyes glowed and he looked into the body itself, taking in the contents of it. "Damn, it wasn't half waterlogged now, was it? That would have to go. Do you remember what I told you about my infinite armor?" he asked, crouching down over the body and pressing his hand over it. He focused, spreading his chakra through the body and drew the water within the corpse to it. He'd already long since learned what he needed to do when using raw life force to repair a body. The contents of those 4 clowns' technique to revive their master Sami had been explained to him from his lute. In the process of regenerating the body, it would flush out all impurities that had taken root, including the likes of insects and such that had infested the body. Still, there had to be a dozen gallons of water stuffed inside this corpse. Eesh. It was a wonder it hadn't just popped, but then he could attribute that to Shisui's strength before death as well, he supposed. Just in case he'd draw the water out. Yes, absorbing chakra and converting it into life force. How could I forget when it has such a silly name? Toka snorted and rolled her ringed eyes, then walked over to hop up onto his shoulder and lay down, observing what he was doing. Yeah, Daiki grinned faintly as he guided the water in the corpse up and out of one of the great big rents in the corpse's flesh. While I lack the revival jutsu itself that will pull a soul from the afterlife, using life force, I can do what they wanted, and way better than those guys thanks to my eyes. In fact, the jutsu used for the life force transference itself wasn't really a jutsu, but rather just a function of the infinite armor, a seal. A seal he'd long since cracked, knew the functions of, and could do better with his eyes. Especially in conjunction with perhaps his most used jutsu of all. And what was it they hoped to accomplish? Toka asked. Some form of revival jutsu, like your village's Edo Tensai? Figures you guys would know about that as well, Daiki snorted, but yeah, along those lines. Basically, with enough life force, it's possible to regenerate a corpse that is little more than a skeleton, back to perfectly healthy and alive. I see, Toka said simply and nothing else. Ever the composed lizard lady, huh? She was silent for a moment as he worked, digesting what he said before. You wish to regenerate the Sharingan and take it for your own, then? Toka questioned a moment later, hitting the nail right on the head. Pretty much. Daiki nodded. The Sharingan is a powerful tool for sure, but why? Do you plan to replace those eyes you have now, the Shinkugan you call them? She asked next. I would advise against it. The overall abilities, especially the sensory-linked ones and the fact they enhance your analytical ability outweigh the benefits of the Sharingan in my opinion. Don't worry, I'm not giving up the Shinkugan. It's way better than the Sharingan, Daiki assured her. I simply plan to fuse the Sharingan with my Shinkugan with Fuinjutsu. I just haven't gotten around to making the seal yet. It hadn't exactly been a top priority so far. He already had a rough idea how he would do it, mind you, with the 4 symbols seal, the chakra filter seal and some of the applications of his improved heavenly star seal. And how will you go about that I wonder? Toka hummed, and in his peripheral vision he saw her lips stretch into a taunting grin. Do you plan to pull out your eyes to physically inscribe the seals on them? Daiki said nothing. Toka's eyes widened. Truly, she gasped, before erupting into laughter. My goodness. You're truly a buffoon that will do anything to grow stronger. Though, an amusing buffoon at least. Daiki resisted the urge to tell her that there was a fine line between something being stupid and something being genius. It was whether it worked or not, but he would just let his work be all the proof he needed and show her. Later when he actually got it done. Still, he did toy with the idea of making a seal around his eyes, connecting to his temples rather than the eyes themselves. But, he figured that would weaken the connection and it would be stronger if he fused them together. And actually could lead to a better result. If he sealed the finished product to his genome, making it truly part of his bloodline and able to be passed down. That was something that would take a lot longer to complete though. He wasn't quite good enough to pull something like that yet. He shook his head as the last droplet of water came free, swerving up to join the rest, forming into a large sphere of water nearly as tall as he was that was idly floating in the air under his control. He was really getting good at the water manipulation these days. Improving every day, every second, even considering he had clones training with it right this very moment. Right, let's get this show on the road then, Daiki said a few moments later, after dumping the water down the plug hole of the shower provided to his room. Once again crouching down over the body, which was now, while still a lump piece of meat, now much slimmer. He made a single hand seal, mystical palm jutsu. He intoned, familiar warm green healing chakra forming around his hands. And then he focused and drew upon the massive quantities of life force stored within the infinite armor. Beyond absorbing any chakra going his way, Isobu was constantly adding chakra to it himself, and by his counting, in sheer volume, they had stored enough chakra to rival that of his two-tailed sibling, Matabi. His eyes began glowing, so bright the room was cast in a deep red glow, and he molded the life force into his hands. The soft warm green aura of his mystical palm jutsu turned a pure gleaming sliver and he pressed his hands down atop Shisui's body and let loose, directing the pure healing life force into the corpse. And instantly, before his very eyes, he watched as time itself seemed to rewind rapidly for the body. The bloated skin shrinking, tightening, going from soggy pale gray to warm creamy skin. The rents all over the body healed. Filling in, teeth reformed, the bloated skull and face shrunk and molded back into proper shape. A handsome black-haired teen just a few years older than Daiki staring back at him, with empty eye sockets. By his counting, he'd already directed a tenth of the total gathered life force, amplified by his eyes and the mystical palm jutsu into the body. What the? Keep going. Isobu urged him before he could falter. Power requires power, and the Sharingan, especially this one's, isn't so easily restored from nothing, especially considering this one's eyes still exist. That didn't make sense at all. Isobu was sure for instance Daiki himself could regenerate a lost lung rather easily. So would that mean if somebody just tore his lung out, and kept it in their hand and didn't destroy it, it would make it harder for Daiki to regenerate? Just keep going. I admit, I do not know everything, but eyes such as these are special. They require you to go further, Isobu replied. How cryptic. And stupid. Really, what was up with the fucking bullshit around the Sharingan that even the laws of the universe apparently made it harder to regenerate them just because? He pushed even more life force into Shisui's body, yet still, nothing formed in his eyes. He tripled the output. Soon he'd expanded life force equal to Shukaku, the one-tailed Biju in chakra by Isobu's estimates, which had been enough to fully revive Seimi and pull him from the afterlife. There was a glimmer within eye sockets, small white flakes forming over the optic nerves within. Aura! Daiki roared and went full in. He pushed every little bit of life force stored within the infinite armor out, amplified it by his eyes and directed it into the body with the mystical palm jutsu. And then he went a step further and went even further beyond. He drew on his own chakra, converting almost the entirety of his own chakra capacity into life force and added it on. Chakra comparable to that of a cage converted into life force just to top it off. He was using so much chakra, his own and beyond. Spots started dancing in his vision and he began teetering from side to side almost drunkenly. And then all of a sudden, the flow cut off entirely. There was nothing else left beyond his very own life force and Daiki found himself toppling backwards in a dead faint. Chakra, exhaustion, he realized blearily. The back of his head smashed into the hard tile floor of the room, yet Daiki didn't even have the strength left to wince. Toka of course easily and casually left off of his shoulder before he hit the ground, not even bothering to stop him. Truly a buffoon, she snorted while he lay there and stared up at the ceiling, or rather as much of the ceiling as he could see since most of his vision was filled with spots and blotting most of it out of view. A competent buffoon I suppose though, it seems your efforts were not in vain. Daiki gave a slow blink. Did it work? He thought hazily. A second later, the numbness that had befell his body began to fade away as a familiar dense, powerful chakra flowed into his coils, rejuvenating him, giving him strength enough to push himself up to his hands and knees. His limbs still shook mightily with the struggle of it, and even with Isobu it would take a little bit before the effects of chakra exhaustion totally faded, but, for now he could move. He turned his head and looked at the corpse, and a grin began to spread across his face. The perfectly restored body of Shisui Uchiha lay staring up at the ceiling just like he had been before, eyes wide open, crimson-red Sharingan eyes with 3 tomo gazing blankly upwards. He done it, and all it took was chakra comparable to the 2-tailed Biju, amplified by a bullshit dujutsu of his own. Daiki grinned in victory before collapsing backwards again onto the ground and just laying there, basking in the moment. Never again, he vowed. While I wouldn't say never, it may be possible to make an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan if you have 2 pairs of the same set of eyes, Isobu interjected, but I do believe it will be a long time coming. The amount of life force you used for this would truly come in handy in a pinch if we were ever in over our heads. As it is, it will take us months to gain that amount of chakra again, and that is assuming we do not get into any battles that force me to exhaust my chakra to keep us alive in the meantime. Daiki grimaced. Yeah, he hadn't at all thought it would take that much life force to just regenerate Shisui's body. Not even close. For reference, that amount of chakra turned into life force was easily enough for you to live 1,000 years lifespan-wise, Isobu added. Fucking Sharingan. Daiki had forgotten how much it truly sucked to have chakra exhaustion, even before he slurped up Isobu into his chest like a big wet tortoise-flavored noodle. He'd been very careful to train himself just to before the point of chakra exhaustion and never fall past the line. After all, if he had chakra exhaustion, he would be laid up recovering for ages and thus would lose precious time that could other be spent grinding for gains. As it was, even with Isobu's chakra running through his veins, allowing him to move, he still felt light-headed and his limbs heavier than the weights he wore. Which were 20,000 pounds by the way. Which was like 10 tons or so. His limbs literally felt heavier than that. He practically had to drag himself in an army crawl over to Shisui's corpse. Toka laughing all the way at him as she hopped up onto the bed he'd left out. She really did find a lot of amusement in bullying him. That wasn't fair at all, by the way. I'm not a nerd. He whined mentally. He was big, tough and muscular. He could lift a grown man with a single pinky finger. He was manly with a capital M as it was. He sealed Shisui's corpse into his Dimension Force seal, before flopping onto his back and just laying there. Can you help me up onto the bed? Daiki asked his bully lizard. Updated from Novelban. See Ohm. No, Toka snorted. Think of this as a lesson to think things through more carefully, you silly meathead buffoon. Daiki pouted. Well, whatever, it wasn't like he couldn't really do it if he wanted to. He just couldn't be bothered. Another unfortunate side effect of chakra exhaustion. Lethargy and lack of motivation. It was truly the antithesis to the grind. Only heretics to the grind like Kakashi fondly fornicated with chakra exhaustion. And that guy got chakra exhaustion a lot in the other timeline. He'd recover faster, of course, if he could stop using his eyes. Sadly for him, unlike chakra exhaustion's personal gigolo Kakashi, just covering his eyes didn't exactly stop them from working. Still, it wouldn't take him that long to recover. An hour or two at best, thanks to not only Isobu, but the chakra being constantly fed into his coils by the Heavenly Star Seal. He would just have to tough it out until then. He apologized mentally to the grind. No, wait. He took that back. This is an opportunity to grind resistance to chakra exhaustion. Daiki realized. Now that he was exposed to it, if this ever somehow happened again, he would be more used to it. By the way, you have a visitor, Toka commented, so I'll leave you to that and have a nap for now, I believe. Human beds aren't too bad, she said, and then faded out of view entirely. Though he knew she was still there, of course, and just as she did, there was a knock on his door. Huh, she was right. Damn it, he hadn't sensed anyone approaching at all. Sure, his senses were dulled right now, but still. I've got a long-ass way to go before I catch up to her sensory abilities, he grimaced. Well, whatever, he'd just need to grind that out more later. Come in, Daiki called out, it's open. He'd get up and open it himself, but he was feeling rather lazy, what with that thirsty thought chakra exhaustion having her slutty claws dug deep into him right now. The door swung open and Daiki blinked as he found himself looking at a familiar bun-haired older girl. Huh, they had finished the exam already? Did that mean the sound trio had attacked Team 7 already? He wondered if they did better this time around. Sup? Daiki greeted the girl, plastering a debonair smile across his face. Tenten raised an eyebrow at him. What are you doing? She asked dryly. Just chillaxing like a baller, Daiki replied, and would have casually shrugged. If he currently had the motivation to do so. Her other eyebrow rose up and joined the first. Somehow, knowing you, I doubt that. Do you even know the definition of chilling out? Or is this just some new way of training you've discovered? The bun-haired girl asked with a snort and crossed her arms. I'm training to resist chakra exhaustion, he tried. Tenten stared blankly at him for a second before sighing and kicking the door shut behind her. You mean you did something stupid and exhausted all your chakra and now can't move? She sliced right through his bullshit, walking over and crouching next to his head. Why do you assume it was something stupid and not intentional? Daiki dug his feet in. Metaphorically, since you know, chakra exhaustion and all. Because we've hung out a decent little bit now, spent a decent amount of time together with that date we were on and all. And I've managed to get a decent grasp on you, I think. Tenten smirked at him and poked his cheek, daring him to bat her hand away. He of course kid. He just didn't do so, because he liked the feel of her finger. Yeah, totally, the first time we met at that restaurant I thought you were cool. But you're almost as big an idiot as Lee and Guy Sensei. Hey, now that's uncalled for, Daiki protested, I'm cool. You look cool, there's a big difference. Tenten denied his protests, you're actually a dork, and a pervy one at that. Pervy dork? Did someone else hear glass shattering? No, so it was just his pride then? If he had the motivation for it right now, he would have slumped over in depression? The illusion of his pride had been destroyed, completely shattered, as if some spiky-haired delinquent had punched right through it. His cool image, the badass front he put up to show his greatness, it was all for nothing? I've been telling you that for a while now, you know, Isobu huffed. Yes, but he thought Isobu was just yanking his chain. So, what really happened? Tenten asked, breaking him from his thoughts. I didn't think properly, jumped right in while trying something out and exhausted all of my chakra. Daiki admitted with a sigh. No point really hiding it at this point. Well, roughly how he ended up in this state. Not that he actually restored the corpse of an Uchiha to perfect health so he could harvest its eyes. Must have been quite the technique, Tenten whistled, halting and poking his cheek. You're an endurance freak after all and have chakra for days. Something like that, Daiki snorted. So guess you finished the exam then? He changed the subject. Yup, not long ago actually, 4th team so far apparently. She grinned at him, flashing him a V sign with 2 fingers. Heard you were the first one to finish Mr. Ringer, in record time at that? Less than an hour baby, I'm awesome like that, he grinned. You're something alright. The bun-haired girl rolled her eyes, full of it I'm thinking. Still, that's why I came here since I heard you were already here. You miss me that much? He joked, want a second date? Tenten snorted, amused. Actually, Lee got into a bit of a fight with those sound punks and didn't take them seriously. They busted up his eardrums so his balance is all thrown off and he can't hear right. She replied, I'm not really good enough with the mystical palm jutsu yet to do delicate stuff like that. So was hoping you could heal him up, but looks like that's a no-go for now. She gave a helpless shrug. So that had gone down the same then? I'll do it later, once I've recovered. Should only take a few hours, he promised. And she gave him an odd look, but didn't comment. So the sound team huh? I was thinking of bullying them a bit myself the other day for attacking one of us, but they were too weak to be any fun hunting down to be honest. They have some niche techniques, that sound arm thing the lead one has was kinda interesting, and one of them even had a wind jutsu that's a lot like yours, Tenten mused. But yeah, they weren't all that strong to be honest. Lee could have beaten all 3 of them easily enough if he took his weights off. Should have done that before the exam started really. Daiki rolled his eyes. Lee definitely had the strength to be a chunin, but he completely lacked the mentality. True, though he has his reasons, silly as they might seem to some. Tenten shrugged again. Honestly, they were kind of annoying. Thought they were hot shit for ganging up on that pink-haired girl. Sakura I think? We didn't need to in the end because it seems she's friends with you, because she busted out that jutsu of yours. Daiki blinked. She did? Huh. Yeah, she got caught up by that sound chick grabbing her hair. And the stupid bitch went off on some rant about her long hair despite having even longer hair. Wasn't mouthing off for long though. Tenten growled before snorting. The Sakura chick cut off her hair, then used it as a bit of a smokescreen to get the jump on the bitch. Punched her right in the stomach and used your jutsu on her. Would've probably killed her if her arm didn't snap like a twig in the process. Huh. As expected she couldn't handle the jutsu with her current arm strength. But still, Sakura actually took Kin down. And she did exactly as he said, used it only when she was sure she would get the hit in. Good on her. The guy with a jutsu like yours totally wigged out seeing it though. Went on a total rager about her copying him and stuff. It was kind of pathetic actually, Tenten continued. He tried to blast her with his own, but she fired off your jutsu with her other arm, snapped it as well I think, but managed to block his own with it. Then the Uchiha kid woke up, had some weird tattoos, his chakra went all nasty and acted like a total psycho. He ended up killing the guy when he saw what happened to his teammate and then the bandage guy who was the leader. Then Dosu and Zaku were dead then? Huh, that was new and an unexpected development. Still that Uchiha kid was really unstable there for a bit, almost called us out for a fight as well before that Naruto kid woke up. Tenten continued. Blondie made a big fuss about his teammate's shorter hair and the Uchiha snapped out of whatever berserker rage he was in and those weird tattoos and his nasty chakra disappeared real quick. Daiki frowned and thought, this will change things up a bit come the preliminaries, he mused. But then again their existence wasn't actually all that important in the grand scheme of things. Dosu would get killed by Gaara off-screen and Kin and Zaku just got used as Edo Tensei sacrifices. Orochimaru could get any 2 sacrifices, so they weren't all that important really. Can't say I'm not glad how things turned out though, the bun-haired girl grinned. I managed to get my hands on that gauntlet the bandage guy had. He called it the melody arm I think, it'll be fun to learn how to use in the future. Another change. Not exactly a massive one, but still another change. And sound-based techniques would be super useful for her in the future. He needed the time to think this. His thoughts were derailed by surprisingly soft hands grasping his head and gently lifting it up and directed the back of his skull, to a pair of full, firm, yet comfortable thighs. Daiki froze. What are you doing? He asked blankly, looking directly up at Tenten now from where his head lay on her thighs. Well, I figure since it'll be a good while before you can move, I may as well make things more comfortable for you. She smirked down at him. Come on, You can't say a perv like you isn't happy getting a lap pillow from me. You weren't exactly shy before in complimenting my, let's be polite and say my looks. Was she coming on to him? You could just help me over to the bed, he pointed out. I can if you want. Tenten raised an eyebrow challengingly at him. Nope, I'm good here. He instantly backtracked. I thought so, she snorted, her smirk turning wry. One seriously could not underestimate the healing properties of a lap pillow. Daiki practically felt his chakra recovery speed up massively, 1,000% over even. It was such a speedy recovery technique that in response to Tenten's teasing, he managed through sheer epic badassery to roll in place so he was laying face down on her thighs and could feel the full lusciousness of them against his cheeks. He inhaled and then exhaled deeply, smells like victory. A hand wove itself into his hair and fingers grasped his short spiky tresses and he found his face yanked up by the grip, his nose practically being buried in Tenten's toned belly for a second before his head was tilted up and found the brunette looking down at him, one eyebrow raised, gaze dry. Really? She deadpanned. Him, looking up at her like this, he could only see half of her face, the rest was blocked out by the surprisingly large sloping of her breasts. Well, you probably don't know being a complete pleb with medic ninjutsu, but lap pillows are known to speed up recovery rates by 100%, Daiki helpfully informed her, going the face down route of it though with a cute girl, boosts that 10 times over. Somehow her gaze became even drier and her other eyebrow raised up to join the first. You must be really great at infiltration missions with how easily you can bullshit with such a straight face. The bun-haired older girl snorted. I'm not bullshitting, remember, I had to move to change my position. Daiki smirked at her, proof that it works. Utterly shameless. She shook her head, letting go of his hair and letting his face plop down against her thighs. Despite how firm and toned they were, her thighs were also surprisingly soft somehow. Such a mystery. Not that he was complaining. You're an utter menace, she continued. I can only imagine the amount of girls you've taken advantage of like this and got away with just because you're cute and strong. None really, he said, his voice muffled slightly because of her thighs. You're the only one who's ever given me a lap pillow, be proud. He could have taken advantage of Hinata most likely, but he wouldn't. He'd felt up Sakura, but that was just for a laugh and to hype her up, and pinching Ino's ass didn't count. And Kurenai and Anko didn't count either, because he couldn't be taking advantage of them when they freely offered to ride his dick. That was on them. Really, his restraint was quite admirable when he thought about it. He was quite the gentleman. Oh wow, my biggest achievement yet, Tenten replied with a snort. I can practically see the Hokage giving me a Chunin vest and a super chakra blade as a reward right now. I mean if she wants to be my personal lap pillow giver, that's an easy reward, he laughed mentally. Tenten was actually one of the most suited to be a Chunin in his general age group. She wasn't the strongest, nor was she the smartest, but she was mature and struck a nice middle ground between them with having both the strength and intelligence for the role, whereas, most of the candidates were like Naruto, Sasuke and Lee, specced into the strength and not having the maturity, or the likes of Shikamaru who specced into the intelligence role and lacked the strength. The whole theme of the Chunin exams here was about that heaven and earth crap that old man Sarutobi thought up. Only those possessing of both the required mental and physical ability would be promoted. Funny how that got hand-waved for Shikamaru and nobody else. Then again the old man was dead and gone by the time the promotions came about. He probably just got promoted because of Asuma pushing for it and nobody wanting to slap the man down after he just lost his father. It was that or Shikaku pushing for it as the more or less Jonin commander that seemed the most likely options to Daiki. He refused to believe the examiners could be that utterly bum-fucking stupid to promote him over everybody else for his showing against Temari. Nepotism at its finest for sure. Well, if he ended up Hokage, it wasn't going to happen unless that noodle-armed shadow boy got put through a grind course and gained some muscle. None of his teams would be getting led on missions by such a flimsy guy. Honestly, such an unmotivated guy was near the last he'd promote from his age group. Chunin vest and chakra blade, got it, Daiki nodded into Tenten's thighs, seems a pretty good trade for you as my personal lap pillow giver. That actually might make being Hokage worth it. He'd have his clones do all the work while he chillaxed with his head in Tenten's lap. He'd totally need to find some sheer skirt for her to wear though. Like a harem one. He should hit up the daimyo or something to ask him about getting harem girl outfits. No wait, a belly dancer outfit would look way better on Tenten. Last I checked you weren't Hokage. Tenten pointed out. For now, but I'm pretty much next in line, he responded. Who? And where'd you get that idea? The bun-haired girl's voice was light as she asked, clearly disbelieving. 'Cause I'm just that awesome, he smirked into her thighs. No doubt if the Hokage were to die anytime soon or step down they'd pick me to replace him. And did you wake up with your face in a bowl of cereal after that dream? Tenten snorted. Or did you hit your head before I found you? Let me check for a bump. He felt one of her hands reach into his hair and gentle rake through his dark tresses. Haters gonna hate, but that does feel good, he replied idly and just relaxed and enjoyed the feeling. It wasn't like he blamed her for not believing him. After all, he had a hard time believing it sometimes that he was basically the next Hokage and he'd had a decent while to process it now. And Tenten wasn't exactly privy to his full strength and resources, never mind his Jinchuriki abilities and the like. Maybe your head is just one big lump and that's why I can't feel one on here? She mused sardonically as she continued to gently rake her fingers through his short spiky hair. Your head is plenty big enough for it. I'm gonna give you D-rank missions for a year straight when the truth come out, he laughed. Sure you are, the bun-haired girl drawled sarcastically. Heck, tell you what, if it does turn out to be true, I'll give you a lap pillow whenever you want. Ooh, high stakes there. Daiki grinned and turned his head over a bit so he could look up into her eyes with one of his own. I'm pretty possessive, you know. Which means no other boyfriend for you when that happens. These cozy thighs will belong to me. Who? She rolled her eyes. Guess I'd be stuck with you then? Daiki blinked, before his grin widened to shit-eating proportions. That sounds like a proposition to me, he replied. You're the one that loves having your face between my thighs. Tenten deadpanned. Touché. Among other things, he shot back, but it's good to know. Good to know what? She furrowed her brows. How good my game is. He gave a tiny shrug that only the recovery power of the legendary lap pillow afforded him, and that you're totally fine being stuck with me. His grin reached shit-eating proportions. Despite how cool she'd played it so far, Tenten was unable to stop the slight flush her cheeks took on. I don't see you complaining about it, she replied. As if I would, Daiki laughed. I'd probably be a shit boyfriend, but I wouldn't say no to dating you. Her lips quirked up. Is that so? The bun-haired older girl mused, before reaching down to flick him on the nose. Save it for after the exams, lover boy. We can try it out a bit if you want, see if it works out. Totally fine with me, he agreed. 2 hours later, Daiki was up back on his feet and moving again, albeit a bit stiffly. His chakra capacity had fully recovered though, which was what mattered. He just felt like he'd had a cheat day and gorged on a bunch of artery-clogging junk food full of salt and super greasy fat. As if he took a bite out of Choji's mother's ass. Not that he would. There were some things even the ever-fearless Daiki-sama himself was too afraid to face head-on. And this is the boy that plans to save the world, Isobu groaned. Daiki shrugged. I know my limits, buddy. He replied mentally as he made his way down the hall that the assigned bedrooms were located in, with Tenten by his side, or rather a bit in front of him, leading him to where her team's room was. And because he was taking advantage of his exhausted body to check her out from behind. It was only a short walk that took less than 30 seconds, about 25 at most, and only because of his pace and the fact that Tenten's team had claimed the most faraway room at the end of the hall for whatever reason. Daiki personally had chosen the first one. He had no idea why none of the other two teams had before he got here. Possibly some strategic thing or something, honestly, he couldn't be sure since he saw nothing wrong with taking the first room he came across. You know, are you sure you had chakra exhaustion? Tenten looked over his shoulder at him, forcing him to drag his eyes up from where he was admiring her backside. She rolled her eyes but didn't comment, because I've had chakra exhaustion before, a few times even, and I was laid up for days recovering. It's only been 2 hours and you're up and about. Your thighs have the magic touch, what can I say? Daiki shrugged with a grin. She gave him a thoughtful look. So it's just some trait you have then, bloodline maybe? She mused. Yep, it's called the Sexigan. When I'm in contact with a knockout like you, all of my parameters are increased by 1000%. He nodded and revealed. Well, keep your secrets if you want. Tenten rolled her eyes and turned back around, though not fast enough to hide the flush that spread over her cheeks once again at his compliment from his eyes. I'll get it out of you at some point. I mean, if you want to know that badly, I'll tell you, for a lap dance. Daiki grinned. Tenten paused and once again looked over her shoulder at him, giving the younger boy a deadpan look. Slow down a bit, hotshot, she replied dryly. We haven't even had a proper kiss yet. Never mind started dating and you want to jump straight to a lap dance. That was quite the interesting tell. You didn't deny you could give one, he pointed out. Besides, what's a kiss compared to lewdly holding hands? He joked. They had indeed been holding hands for a decent bit during their date not that long ago. What kunoichi couldn't give a lap dance? Tenten snorted derisively, before turning back around and continuing down the hall. Daiki stopped in his tracks and blinked. Being able to give a lap dance is mandatory for kunoichi? He goggled after her. Were seduction classes in the academy actually a thing? He thought that was just bullshit, but the girls did have some classes separate from the boys. He'd need to ask old man Hokage about that. Also, if true and he became Hokage, he'd for sure need to review the skills of all the beautiful kunoichi. For the good of Konoha, of course. Just to make sure they were up to par and not rusty. Moments later, they arrived at Teen Guy's room, and Tenten opened the door, directing him inside. Daiki blinked at what he found. I kind of should have expected this, he thought. Neji was sitting on the edge of one of the three beds, the one closest to the wall and one that seemed to have been moved a bit away from the others. While Lee was doing one-handed vertical push-ups. 6,668, 6,669. The bowl-cut-haired boy counted off to himself, before noticing his presence. Ah, Daiki-san. Good to see you, how have you been? It seemed he'd gotten quite into a little bit of training over the past 2 hours while Tenten was with him. I've been good, Lee, you? He replied automatically. Sorry, what was that? Lee suddenly shouted. I am afraid I cannot hear you, my ears have been damaged. Daiki rocked back on his feet, startled in spite of himself at the sudden loudness. Neji sighed irritably. He heard Tenten face palm from behind him and then groan, please fix this idiot. He seems fine to me. Daiki shrugged, looking over his shoulder to the grin at the bun-haired girl. You're not as funny as you think you are, you know, she deadpanned. Why does everyone keep saying that? He rolled his eyes. First Isobu, now Tenten. He was hilarious and people quoted everything he said. That has never once happened before, ever, and it will never happen. The only person who thinks you are funny is yourself. Isobu deadpanned, like the hater he was. Tenten rolled her eyes right back at him, before stepped past and reaching down and palming Lee by the face. I told you to take it easy until you got healed, didn't I, you moron? She huffed. And bodily picked him up with one hand and tossed him onto the bed. What? Lee shouted in question as he landed on the bed. Tenten that was not very youth. She palmed him by the face once more, shutting him up. Please just be quiet, she groaned, then turned her head to give him a pleading look. Please fix him up so he can go back to his normal loud volume and not this. See, I would. Daiki trailed off and gave a shrug, but my feelings have been hurt. I'm all depressed and as it turns out, my chakra control dips by -69,000,000% when I'm feeling sad. Seriously? She gave him a dead stare. You're doing this because I said you're not funny? Hey, what's with that look? Daiki smirked for a brief second before giving a mock gasp of pain and grasping his chest in an over-the-top manner, even making sure to stagger back a bit just to add to the show and force his legs to tremble. I'll have you know I've been wounded in the heart. This is true emotional damage. I'm going to cut you. She deadpanned. Well, my chakra control is shot and now I'll have to worry about getting attacked. How am I supposed to use medical ninjutsu like that? Daiki retorted. I hate you so much right now. Somehow, her voice became even more dead. Like wow, if her voice was a corpse right now, it would have been in worse condition than Shisui's body. Oof. Daiki grasped his chest even harder and stumbled back against the door. The emotional damage just doubled, -69 billion chakra control now. What is happening? Lee tried to bounce up from the bed, only kept down by Tenten pushing down on him. Daiki-san, my friend, are you okay? Tenten, just give him what he wants. Neji's head mechanically turned to stare at her, his somehow blank-eyed gaze becoming even more blank. He had some real skill with his eyeballs for sure. Whatever he wants, just give him it, whatever will shut that idiot up. I'm this close to puncturing my own eardrums. How is 69 billion doubled from 69 million? This is so stupid, she groaned. Your mind is just at a lower stage than mine, I'm afraid. My brain exists in a higher dimension. Daiki replied, his lips twitching up into a brief smirk before he hid it again. Tenten's eyebrows twitched. She totally saw it. Is that the dumbass dimension? She snarked with a huff. Oof. Daiki's legs, gave out beneath him and he slumped to the ground, limp. "Daiki-san!" Lee shouted, eyes wide in horror. "Is this truly my fate? How cruel!" Neji rubbed his temples, trying to massage away what was no doubt quite the killer headache. Alright, I give up, you win." Tenten's shoulders slumped in defeat. The bun-haired older girl closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she exhaled a few moments later and opened her eyes, a bright perky smile was on her face and she walked over to Daiki, hip swaying. "Daiki-sama." Daiki perked up. He was actually quite surprised when Tenten boldly sat right down on his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck, bringing one of her hands around to gently trail a finger daintily over his cheek. "You're so cool and strong, Daiki-sama. I bet all the other guys around here wish they could be like you," she simpered, "and so handsome too." "This is all true." Daiki nodded, though not gonna lie, wow, she can act really well. If he didn't know any better, he for sure would think he was dealing with a fangirl on the level of Sakura or Ino in their heyday of Sasuke simpery. And so humble, she gave a tittering giggle, crushing the flash of exasperation that appeared on her face for a brief moment expertly. "Can you do me a favor, Daiki-sama, and please heal my dumb teammate? It would mean ever so much to me," she asked, leaning forward to plant a quick, chaste smooch on his cheek, before pulling back to give him a pleading look. His hands grasped her hips and in one motion he rose to his feet, and suddenly, "I'm totally healed," he announced. "Sure, I'll fix up your teammate for you, Tenten-chan, anything for a fan." "You're the best, Daiki-sama," she chirped, pressing another quick smooch to his cheek before letting go of him. "Tenten-san. Daiki-san. What is going on?" Lee hollered, ruining the moment. Tenten cringed. Daiki laughed, walking past her. "Don't worry about it, leotard boy." He waved the bow-cut ninja off. He noted Neji was giving both him and Tenten a horrified look, his head turning from him to her and back again, back and forth, as if unable to understand what just happened, but disgusted all the same and not sure who to direct that disgust at. He could see Tenten's face burning bright red in his peripheral vision, but being a generous guy and all, he didn't stare and make it worse, or comment on it. Instead, he formed a single hand seal of one of his most used jutsu and green healing chakra began to warm around his hands. When he was done healing Lee, he beat a hasty retreat, just to let Tenten calm down a bit. She hid it well, but her embarrassment at simping for him to boost his ego to do what she asked, had hurt her pride a bit. And she knocked Lee the fuck out when he was still just as loud. Like full-on senbon tip with a sleeping drug, and stabbed him in the leg with it. Well, it was fine, she could heal that much herself. He wasn't afraid or anything, of course, he just wanted to let her get her emotions under control, honest. Okay, so maybe he pushed it a bit far. I regret nothing. Daiki grinned to himself as he returned to his room, closing the door behind him. It may have embarrassed Tenten to put on that little act, but he got to see an all-new side of her, so it was totally worth it. And all that because she said you weren't funny, Isobu snorted. Clearly a lie. Daiki shrugged. Just because everyone else had such low levels of humor, didn't mean he wasn't funny, it just meant everyone else was too dumb. Clearly. Obviously. That's a bigger delusion than Shukaku thinking he can take Kurama on in a fight, Isobu scoffed. Hey, it could happen. If Shukaku fought Kurama out in the desert, he'd have the advantage, and for as stupidly powerful as Kurama was, he was only at half strength now at best, so he wouldn't put it past Shukaku to eke out a vict. No, it wouldn't even be close, Isobu cut him off. Even at only half capacity, Kurama would still have more chakra than the other 8 of us combined, and while when it comes to you humans, more chakra isn't really a full indicator of strength, it's different for us Biju. The more chakra we have, the stronger, more durable and faster we are in general, and of course, none of us even come close to Kurama's destructive output with a Bijudama. Even now, he could form one that could blow away an island and the entire surrounding area easily. Shukaku has no chance one-on-one, even in the desert. Huh. Granted, Daiki had a good idea of how absurdly strong Kurama was just from reference. After all, he did see Kurama in his first Biju transformation with Naruto, beat not only his buddy Isobu himself, but Matabi, Son Goku, Kakuo, Seiken and Chomei. And even with all 6 of their Bijudamas combined, Kurama still countered them at full power, after they had a head start in charging theirs over his. Poor Shukaku. Ganbare Sand guy. Well, at the very least, he can take pride in being a tanuki and having the biggest balls of all. Daiki mused. We Biju lack genitalia, I have told you this before, have I not? Isobu snorted. Oh yeah. Poor Shukaku-chan. Indeed, Isobu laughed. While we all have rather useful and powerful abilities, in the end, Kurama's raw power and strength trumps the versatility we have over him. At full power, I would be lucky to last a few minutes in a fight against him. Kurama was such a broken cheater man. Nine tails op, PLS nerf. I'd rather whoever you're pleading to didn't. Isobu rolled his eyes. That overpowered strength will be vital in the future if things go to hell as you saw. Well, yeah. But Kurama was a real dark spot. There was nothing Daiki could do to get him to cooperate with Naruto. His arrogance and hatred was just that high up there. It would be up to Naruto himself to win Kurama over. If he even could this time around. The best Daiki himself could do was maybe teach Naruto how to use his powers as a Jinchuriki. And that won't be a simple issue either, Isobu pointed out. After all, I'm fully working together with you. He will have to wrestle mentally with Kurama to control the chakra and resist my brother's attempts to send him into a blood rage that will attack anything in sight. Have I mentioned how much I love you, buddy? Daiki replied. Seriously, he was so glad he didn't need to deal with anything like that. Fake and gay. The huge turtle Biju snorted. How can it be gay if you don't have a dick? Daiki squawked, surprised at the internet meme suddenly thrown his way. A dead one at that. Watching your memories through your subconscious and learning about your former culture is a good way to pass the time. Isobu was completely unrepentant. Also, going by the logic of the culture in your former life, I identify as male. No, Daiki replied simply. I do have to say though, your taste in literature and these anime you like to watch shows your poor taste. The three-tailed Biju ignored him and continued on. You watched so much of these harem shows because of girls, but ground your teeth in a rage over the main characters because of how spineless they were. I suppose your lust for voluptuous girls and the childish dream of a harem overpowered your sheer dislike, especially of this, him. Who was it again, Tom Aulo? Yes, that's his name, Daiki replied instantly, blocking out any thought otherwise. Also again, we're not doing this. So he disliked that the wimps that were never proactive or improved on themselves at all got all these great girls to themselves. Sue him. He wasn't alone in that taste. Rosario Vampire just happened to be the first ever harem series he watched through. His biggest problem with them was that they were supposed to be your average Joe. But they weren't. He was an average Joe in his other life. And he was nowhere near as pitiful as those clowns. Ho, are you embarrassed? How amusing. If I knew bringing up your horrible taste in entertainment was enough to do this, I would have done it much sooner. Isobu laughed, amused, though if it makes you feel better, I do believe you are much superior to the likes of this Tom Aulo. You know, it didn't make him feel better. That was like saying he was more interesting than a dog's turd, covered in flies, and having been baked under the sun for an entire day. I think I'll get started working on my new seal. He nodded to himself. He had 2 days now until the preliminaries started. He was eager to add the power of Shisui's Sharingan to his Shinkugan. Isobu's laughter echoed in his head, distracting him. Damned turtle bro. With the Sharingan now in his grasp, Daiki threw himself fully into developing his new seal. It was going to be the greatest seal he'd crafted yet, using everything he'd learned, combining much of the powerful seals he'd learned together. Taking not only from the Four Symbols seal, but his Chakra Filter seal, the Chakra Absorption seal, the Dimension Force seal, the Life Force Conversion seal, and even the base makeup seal matrix of his Heavenly Star seal. It might have sounded simple, claiming he was more or less combining them, but it wasn't. Not even close. For one, making them fit together was a challenge in of itself. And that wasn't taking account of the fact he needed to break down each and every seal matrix and pick and choose the right parts of each seal to conjoin together, in the process having to edit to make it mesh with other seals. A day and a half later of constant poring over the seals, experimentation, research and trying things out. And he was barely any closer than when he started. This won't work. Daiki groaned, tossing aside a huge rolled-out scroll, a seal attempt scribbled on the middle. It landed on the pile of other duds. The pile that was now taller than him. Daiki rubbed at his eyes. This is even more complicated than I thought it was going to be, he huffed. He knew it wasn't going to be easy, of course. But he'd still seriously underestimated the sheer scale of what he was doing. And that wasn't taking into account the fact that he was going to be putting the seal on something as small as an eyeball. There was a limit after all, to just how much a ceiling matrix could be locked and miniaturized. But it was worth the effort. Or rather once he managed it, because he would have access to all the abilities of the Sharingan. Enhanced perception, increased prediction ability, technique copying, and that was just the base. Above that, he would have access to Shisui's Mangekyu Sharingan. Putting aside his bullshit mind-controlled genjutsu, there was his Susanoo. With the Susanoo, he could perform the majestic attire Susanoo with Isobyu in his full Biju mode. On top of that, he could create even more armor with chakra with the mysterious peacock method. With all that stacked on top of Isobu's absurdly durable shell, there would be few ever capable of breaking through their defenses. They would become an unbreakable wall, the tankiest of all tanks. His stomach growled, breaking him from his delusions of grandeur. I need something to eat. Daiki groaned, grasping his stomach. How long had it been since he last ate? 9.5 hours. Isobu helpfully informed. That long? While he could go longer without food if needed, he was expending a lot of chakra with his clones training and the seal attempts, plus concentrating with all he had. Thus, his stomach got more growly faster. His eyes drifted over to the nightstand he'd pulled back out of his Dimension Force seal, where a few empty plates were piled up. He'd sent a clone out every so often to bring him back some grub to munch on. He needed his vital proteins after all for his epic muscles. Now that he reviewed the memories he'd gotten from said clones, it seemed Ino and her team had finished the exam not long ago. Well, not long was relative because he wasn't exactly sure how long ago that was. He'd noticed them in the mess hall, and stopped to say hi and the like. Ino had been totally red-faced when he did. Temari had given him dirty looks when his clone flirted with Ino a bit, while Tenten had ignored him entirely. Ouch. And his clone had caught sight of Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai and a few other Jonin arriving at the tower when he was out just browsing around with his eyes. His clone had felt his frustration it seemed and had been tempted to go see about banging Kurenai. Good thing he didn't. Those memories would have totally distracted him from his seal experimentation. The path of the horny was no good for this kind of thing. Though maybe getting my rocks off could clear my head a bit, he mused. There was a knock at his door, making him pause. Maybe that's Kurenai now? He mused, perking up. Chakra flooded into his eyes and he peered through the door, only to sigh in disappointment when he found himself looking at a familiar orange book-toting one-eyed scarecrow wannabe. Ew, Kakashi. Why would it have been Kurenai, you dunce? The woman has tried her best to distance herself from you, lest she get roped back into your embrace, Isobu asked. For that reason, she's the one that keeps coming back for more, Daiki shrugged. Standing up, Daiki stretched out the stiffness in his joints and walked over to the door, pulling it open. Yo Daiki-chan. Kakashi greeted him with a perky eye smile and wave. Go away, I'm busy. Daiki responded flatly. He had no desire to get involved with Kakashi. Whatever the man wanted, it was going to be, to borrow a word from Shikamaru and his clan, troublesome. Fuck that noise. You think you have a choice, how cute, Kakashi giggled. Still, is that any way to talk to a good mentor-like figure such as myself? Technically, Kakashi did have authority over him, since he was a genin and Kakashi was an elite jonin. Daiki could also technically transform into his Biju mode and Bijudama the man out of existence. He was just saying that was all. When I get Shisui's Sharingan working right, I'm going to copy and steal all your jutsu. Daiki mentally vowed, while out loud he said, since when are you a good mentor figure? I've taught your team more jutsu than you, he deadpanned. What can I say, I'm a trendsetter, I'm so hip and cool I don't need to teach personally, they just learn from my example. Kakashi shrugged, not missing a beat. How he hated dealing with this guy. Probably because he's one of the few people that can be as obnoxious as you, Isobu commented. Daiki ignored him. He was nowhere near as obnoxious as Kakashi after all. Honestly, with that imagination of yours it's a shame you don't focus on genjutsu, you'd be an undefeated master of it, Isobu snorted. Silly turtle bro. He just didn't understand that Daiki was a really down-to-earth, kind, generous and extraordinarily humble guy. If he wasn't, he'd be crowing from the rooftops, boasting for all he was worth and rubbing all his achievements in everybody's faces. He was fucking amazing after all. Totally. That's the complete opposite of humble. Just because you don't say it out loud doesn't change that. Isobu groaned. Daiki gave an internal shrug. He disagreed. What do you want? He asked the virgin porn peddler on the other side of his room door. A new Icha Icha book, an Icha Icha movie, the Mizukage to star in the Icha Icha movie. Guide to stop wearing that horrible leotard. More new ICHA books. Kakashi began rattling off. No, enough, you're not as funny as you think you are, bro. Daiki cut him off. Pot meet kettle. I'm funny, you're just not smart enough to understand my humor, kid. Kakashi shrugged. Anyway, Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura finished the exam not long ago. Daiki blinked. Huh, that was news to him. He glanced behind him to a clock on the wall of his provided room. There's still a good 12 hours before the next part of the exams start, he noted. They finished faster than they did in the other timeline, it seemed. Good for them. Good for them, what does that have to do with me? Daiki responded. Well, it's twofold. Naruto's exhausted and sleeping it off right now, the man informed. But Sasuke and Sakura are different. Sakura has broken her wrists and medical staff won't intervene right now for the exams unless it's life-threatening, to keep things fair and all. Oh yeah, Tenten did say something about that, didn't she? Though, he didn't know that the medical staff weren't going to intervene and heal people right now. That was odd. Though it did explain partially why Tenten came to him to heal Lee instead of taking him to the infirmary. You want me to heal her then? Daiki cottoned on. See, you're not as dumb as you look after all. Kakashi's eye smile got bigger. Somehow, and as for Sasuke, well, I'm sure you already know why I'm bringing him up. The Hokage tells me you jumped in when he had a little run-in with a certain snaky snake man after all and managed to grasp quite a bit about the cursed seal. Insulting my looks just shows how much of a jealous virgin you are, Tenyashi Pinaskate, Daiki shot back, before smirking and crossing his arms. So you came to see me not only to heal one of your genin, but also to help deal with a seal you don't understand at all. I see, not much of an elite jonin, are you? Of course, he left out the fact that it was just pure luck and outside world knowledge that let him understand the cursed seal itself. You seem to have a fascination with my sexual exploits and penis. Sorry kid, I'm not into dudes. No matter how much steroids they pump into their muscles. Kakashi shrugged off his words easily. But I have no problem sealing off the cursed seal myself. It was the Hokage that told me to have you tag along. And as for Sakura, well, healing jutsu were never my forte. Medical ninja like yourself are a bit squishy and need to hang at the back as support. Unlike a super powerful frontline fighter like myself. Daiki resisted the urge to click his tongue in annoyance. Just means the Hokage has more faith in me than you. Which is telling really, weren't you taught by the fourth Hokage? One of the greatest seal masters like ever? He fired, and frontline fighter. That's a laugh. Can people that can't last 15 minutes in a proper fight be qualified for that role? Does someone have a small chakra capacity? He smirked tauntingly. Bigger than yours. Kakashi didn't miss a beat, and Daiki had to force his eyebrow not to twitch. Anyway, as much as I love this little game of ours, kid, I'm afraid I don't really have the time to indulge your poor attempts at flirting with me. So what will it cost me to move this little shindig along? I'd like to have Sasuke and Sakura ready for the next part of the exams. Honestly, he didn't really need payment. He was just shooting the shit and giving the guy a hard time because he was a prick. Sasuke was his friend and Sakura was eye candy. Teasing the pair of them, in totally different ways, sounded like a fun time right about now as far as breaks went. Still, that didn't mean he wouldn't extort Kakashi with the option available to him. And he knew exactly what he wanted from the man. Tell me how you trained your Ninken summons and I'll do it, he replied. He'd ask for a lightning jutsu, but this was more worth to him right now. The thing was, he wouldn't really need them soon. At least from Kakashi. He'd be learning from the third Hokage himself over the next month. That man was sure to know plenty of lightning jutsu he could teach Daiki. Figured you'd ask for a lightning jutsu, Kakashi blinked, then shrugged. Sure, fine with me kid. I'll write down how I did it and give you it later. Good, Daiki smirked. Where's your team then? He asked. He may as well get right to it. Sakura is with Naruto in their room, Kakashi replied. As for Sasuke, he's waiting right now for me. He was allowed to get checked at the infirmary because of the cursed seal. I'll be taking him to a specific room soon to apply the evil sealing method to it. I'm sure you'll be able to find your way there with those eyes of yours once you're done with Sakura. Right, just point me towards their room for now then. Daiki shrugged. The evil sealing method, huh? He mused inwardly. That was one he hadn't been able to find an example of. so he could learn all about it from watching Kakashi and see if there was any parts of it he could put to use for himself. After letting Daiki know which room Sakura and Naruto currently occupied, Kakashi cheerily disappeared with a shunshin, off to go, most likely take the piss out of Sasuke while they waited on him to heal up Sakura. That guy's good. Daiki begrudgingly accepted. He had a counter for literally everything the Tangenin threw at him, verbally at least. He'd have to work on his material if he wanted to rinse the crap out of the famous copy ninja, it seemed. Just another thing to add to the grind. As always, the grind was eternal. Putting Kakashi out of mind, Daiki made his way towards the room he was directed to, down the hall. Team 7, it seemed, had picked a room near the middle. Not that they would get to enjoy it much. It seemed there was only, roughly 12 hours or so before the second round ended and the third round began. Then again, the rooms were utter crap anyway. Stopping in front of the door, he rapped it with his knuckles. He probably could have just walked in and gave Sakura a good startling for a laugh, but he had manners. Sometimes. Come in? Sakura's voice called out, echoing from behind the door. Accepting the invitation, Daiki opened the door and stepped in, shutting it behind him. He was immediately greeted by loud snoring. Naruto was in the bed closest the bathroom, fast asleep. Sprawled out messily, drool trickling from his mouth, down his chin and onto the pillow he was snuggling. Sakura herself was sitting at the edge of the middle bed, both arms held together in a set of slings made from bandages. Daiki? She blinked, looking surprised to see him. What are you doing here? What do you think I'm doing here? He raised an eyebrow at her. I'm obviously here to check in on my favorite pink-haired lady friend. I'm the only pink-haired girl you know, it's not exactly a common hair color, she replied, giving him a deadpan look. That you know of. He shrugged. Actually, was there any other pink-haired girls around? He actually couldn't remember any. The closest was probably to Yuya or Karen. Sakura sighed. If you're just here to tease me, I'm kind of not in the mood, she replied, then gave him a small glare. Besides, I'm still not happy with you. You felt me up and slapped me on the ass before running off, she reminded him. I did indeed. Good times, Daiki nodded sagely, but as fun as riling you up is, I'm not actually here to annoy you for funsies. She raised a skeptical eyebrow. And what are you here for then? He raised one of his own eyebrows at her in response, before forming a single hand seal, warm green healing chakra coating his hands. He gave the healing chakra an obvious glance, before looking her in the eyes. Oh, Sakura blinked in realization. Wait, how did you know I was injured? She questioned. He was tempted to tell her he'd saw them through the walls and mess with her a bit. See if she'd gotten nude at all while in this room and get her all embarrassed. But it was probably better to heal her first, then tease her. Priorities and all that. He walked over and sat on the bed beside her. Kakashi stopped by and told me, Daiki replied, though, I already knew you were injured before he came along. I heard you did good in the forest, even took out one of those sound genin. How do you know that? The pink-haired girl asked, before blinking and freezing. Wait, were you watching? Nope, Tenten told me, her replied, turn around to face me. Oh, the bun-haired girl on Lee San's team? She asked, and did as he said, sitting fully up on the bed and turning to face him, crossing her legs. That's the one. I actually finished up not long after I left you guys. I got bored since there was nobody interesting to fight. Daiki replied with a shrug, before reaching over, hovering his hands over hers and directing the green healing chakra into them. There was an immediate reaction. Sakura sighed in relief as the mystical palm jutsu numbed the pain in her arms. And Daiki whistled as he got a good look at the damage she'd done to herself. Her wrists were snapped, of course, but beyond that, there were multiple fractures spreading up from her hands to through her forearms. Better? He grinned at her. Much, thanks, she smiled, her face seeming to be much less strained now, and I really do need to thank you for the jutsu you gave me. Without it, I wouldn't have been able to beat that bitchy sound girl and they might have killed us before Sasuke-kun woke up. Not a problem, I'm a generous guy like that. He waved off her thanks, before his grin turned impish, though if you're dead set on thanking me, I'm a big fan of lap dances. Sakura sighed, and you ruined it. Hey, at least I'm consistent, he shrugged it off. Besides, I'm mostly joking anyway. While I'd love a lap dance from you and that awesome ass of yours, I'm just giving you a hard time for a laugh. No, I think a hard time is exactly what you want to give me, she responded, voice dry, eyebrows raising almost challengingly at him. He blinked, actually surprised and almost taken aback by Sakura throwing some innuendo his way. Sakura with the banter, huh? Nice. Well, you're not wrong, Daiki laughed, I'd love to give you a real hard time. All night long in fact. I'm free right now in fact if you're up for it. You're such a pervert, she snorted, shaking her head, honestly, you should be more careful. What would you do if I accepted? And no, fucking me isn't an acceptable answer, I'm talking about after that fact. Daiki opened his mouth to respond, before pausing. He wasn't at all expecting her to be so blunt about it, that his shtick. And also because he actually didn't have an answer for that. Railing her into the bed and making her scream his name to the heavens was one thing. But, the after fact was something different. For one, he couldn't promise her anything. Because he'd already more or less lined things up with Tenten to see about how their relationship would progress. That's my point, Sakura rolled her eyes, breaking him from his thoughts. You know, you gave me some hard truths about Sasuke-kun and my naive thoughts about loving him in the forest. But isn't this more a case of the pot calling the kettle black now? You flirt so freely with girls. Spread your attention all around but can't focus on just one. Then again, maybe you aren't interested in love or a relationship and just want to sleep around. I'm not really interested in that. This took a turn he was not at all expecting. Sense and logic, his greatest weaknesses. How did she know? It actually took him a few moments to organize his thoughts in response. Honestly, you're only half right, Daiki replied. Sighing, do I want to sleep around? Yes, most guys our age do. But it doesn't mean I'm not interested in a relationship. I'm testing the waters myself to see who I mesh well with. Also, he was kind of surprised. About how reasonable she was being about her infatuation with Sasuke. He kind of expected her to dig her heels in more. She'd spent years thinking she was head over heels for the guy after all. Granted, in the other timeline, she realized that her infatuation was utterly childish and not real love if he remembered right. And her infatuation turned into real affection later despite Sasuke being a traitor. And she was already older here than there. Still, I'm more surprised of you even talking about the possibility even being there, he pointed out. What, with you liking Sasuke and all? Guess we're both just a couple of hypocrites then, Sakura snorted derisively. What can I say? Those hard truths of yours hit home. You apparently know far more about Sasuke-kun than I do. You're closer to him than I've ever been and probably ever will be, and I'm not even his type at all. It's funny how a single little fight to the death with enemy ninja can put things into perspective, and it just got my mind wandering. About? He prompted, raising an eyebrow at her in interest. A few things, she shrugged. How useless and weak I am compared to Naruto and Sasuke-kun. How I've not been serious enough at all. Thinking back to bad decisions I made around Sasuke-kun, you. His second eyebrow joined the first, his interest totally peaked now. Me? Daiki repeated in askance. Pretty emerald green eyes stared into his own and Sakura gave him a half smile. Sasuke-kun never showed an ounce of interest in me looking back, no matter what I did. She replied, you did though. Actually you couldn't make your interest any more blatant. You're good looking, strong, successful, help me out, even if you're a pervert about it. So yeah, my mind wandered and I thought, what if I tried going after you instead? Well, this was unexpected, not at all unwelcome though. Of course, then I remembered, you mostly just seem to want to bed me, she continued with a shrug, then snorted, and I realized how shallow I was being. I'm mostly playing it for a laugh you know, Daiki sighed and responded seriously. This wasn't really the time for jokes. Sure, I do want to bed you if I'm being totally honest, but that's just instinct cause you're hot. You're not perfect, but nobody is to be honest. You've got your problems but I can already see them easing out of you. Actually, right now, he felt more like he was dealing with Shippuden Sakura, rather than the pre-time skip one. Age-wise, she was only a few months off of Shippuden Sakura was at the beginning, and despite having the outfit of her pre-time skip self, she was looking more like her Shippuden self as well. Especially now that her hair was cut short. It was what, October now? If he remembered right, her birthday was in March, so she was 6 months from being 15. Sakura chuckled lightly. Now see, if you were serious like this all the time, then I might have went all in and chased you, she teased. That'd be so boring though, Daiki laughed along. I did the serious thing before, remember? All through the academy in fact. Life is much more fun now that I've changed things up. They fell into easy, more comfortable conversation after that while he continued healing her. He asked mostly about what went on with them in the forest after he left behind and got more or less the full story of what went down. Which more or less lined up with what he already knew and what Tenten told him. After that, they took the Sound Team's Earth Scroll and continued on, struggling here and there, before they ran into Kabuto, who had been separated from his team. And from there, things progressed as he remembered, with them running into one of the other rain teams, Sasuke being unable to do anything, the same with Sakura since she was injured, with broken wrists and all, and Naruto carrying them to victory. Though he apparently had a much easier time of winning this time around and defeated them within around 10 minutes apparently. Probably because he didn't have to worry about his chakra being fucked from the 5 elemental seal. Daiki mused inwardly. And also because he was apparently able to box in the Rain Shinobi's clones with the Earth style barrier, making it easy to catch them out and tell they were all fakes. Before he knew it, over a half-hour passed and he finally finished up healing her, taking care of both the broken wrists and the fractures going from her hands to upper forearms. Medical ninjutsu is really amazing. My arms feel pretty much fully healed. Sakura flexed her hands after removing her slings once he was done. Yeah, it's super helpful, Daiki nodded. I've taken care of all your injuries, but your arms might be a little tender, so don't strain them too much for the next little while and just rest up until the next exam starts. Alright, I'll do that, she nodded, before eyeing her hands thoughtfully. Hey, do you think I'd be able to learn medical ninjutsu as well? Yep. Daiki replied instantly. Sakura blinked. That was fast, she noted, looking surprised. I know how good you are, he shrugged. I don't doubt you'd be able to learn medical ninjutsu pretty easily. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if you had a real talent for it. Maybe you could even rival Tsunade one day if you go for it. Of course, he already knew she did and could do so. She had the potential to be the best medic ninja in the world, rivaled only by Tsunade herself. Her cheeks took on a red flush at his words. You think so? She asked. Not a doubt in me, he confirmed with a grin. The flush got deeper, and a pretty smile spread across her face. See, you can be charming when you want to be. Sakura teased, a slight giggle escaping her. What do you mean? I'm always charming. Daiki's grin widened and he gave her a wink. Only you think that, she shook her head, and looked up at him, pretty smile aimed straight at him. Thanks. Not a problem, getting some alone time with you is a pretty fair deal in Exa. He was cut off by a resounding snore coming from a certain spiky-haired blonde. Well, mostly alone, he amended. Sakura looked over her shoulder and gave the sleeping blonde a dry look. Well, he's earned the rest I guess. He really pulled through for us there at the end, she mused before turning back to look at Daiki. And I wouldn't mind doing this again sometime. Hit me up whenever you want, Daiki shrugged. I can even help you get started on learning medical ninjutsu if you want. Let me guess, in return for a lap dance? The pink-haired girl's pretty smile turned teasing. Well, I definitely wouldn't say no, he grinned. Her teasing grin just got wider. I'll think about it, she responded, stepping forward and surprising him by standing on her tiptoes and pressing a kiss against his cheek. Right now though, I've got doctor's orders to rest, so I'm going to sleep a bit, so it's time for you to go bye-bye. Or I could join you. He wiggled his eyebrows. There'd be no sleeping or resting involved then, I'm afraid, right? She snorted, stepping by him and opening the door. So bye-bye for now, perv boy. Fair enough. He chuckled, turning around and leaving out of the door. Just before he stepped past her though, he reached out faster than she could react, and took a nice big handful of her ass and squeezed. Just grabbing my payment, he grinned widely. He was expecting to have to dodge a punch, but instead, Sakura barely reacted at all. And merely raised an eyebrow at him. I knew you were gonna do that, she snorted. And yet she didn't try to stop him, and wasn't attempting to remove his hand. He gave her full, round ass cheek another hefty grope, grin widening. Sakura sighed. If you leave that hand there much longer, I'm keeping it, she told him dryly. He gave her ass another nice squeeze, getting a fell for the bouncy cheek filling his palm, before letting go. I'm tempted to let you, but sadly, that annoying guy Kakashi needs me to do something else for him. He huffed, stepping outside into the hallway. That's too bad, Sakura suddenly pouted at him. Leaning on the door, I was kind of liking that there and was thinking of giving you that lap dance. And another confirmation that a kunoichi could give a lap dance. Seriously, what did they teach in those kunoichi only classes? But more importantly, really? His eyes lit up excitedly. Yeah, no, you're not that lucky buddy. Sakura snorted, and promptly shut the door in his face. That's not nice, Sakura, he called through the door. Ah, I'm soaked with sweat and this thong I'm wearing is just digging in. I should really take it off, her voice echoed back, definitely teasingly. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. He of course could just peek through the door and wall themselves with his Shinkugan. But that would mean he lost. Fucking Kakashi. Daiki huffed, mustering his mighty grind-enhanced willpower and self-control and walking away. It wasn't really the copy ninja's fault, but it just felt good to blame it on Kakashi. What most of the people currently visiting the tower in the middle of the Forest of Death probably didn't know was that the tower itself had a basement level. Daiki himself wouldn't have known about it either. If not for the fact he could literally see through any solid object with but a glance with his Shinkugan. So a sweeping look revealed it to him during his first day in the tower. And another sweeping glance with his eyes after he left Sakura behind, revealed to him that the basement level was exactly where Kakashi and Sasuke were. Honestly, finding the door to the basement took more time than finding their whereabouts. He even stopped a passing Chunin patrolling the halls about it, who had no idea what he was talking about. As it was, it took him a few minutes to locate the door. Fucking Kakashi, couldn't that lazy prick do anything helpful? Oh Daiki, by the way, the door is located over there. That was all he needed to say, but no, as always, he had to make things way more difficult than they needed to be. Because, he was a prick. There wasn't even any stairs, just an inclined little hill kind of thing. It was subtle as all hell, to the point where he missed it a few times when searching with his eyes. The basement level itself was odd. It was really only one big massive room, filled with pillars going up into the ceiling. He had no idea what purpose this place served at all. Granted, he also didn't really care. Though with all the huge, sturdy pillars around, his best guess was that it was a place used for chaining up huge beasts. Which made a slight bit of sense considering all the massive beasts in the Forest of Death. Though the why still eluded him. He found Sasuke and Kakashi quite quickly, making his way through the huge basement level room towards them. His eyes revealed to him though, that there was a fourth in the room. Hidden underground, not far away from Sasuke and Kakashi, their presence completely concealed. Daiki hid a grimace. Fucking Orochimaru. He made sure not to look directly at the man or stare and give away that he knew he was there. He didn't want to spook the man into action. With what he revealed the other day, he might feel his plans were jeopardized and try to kidnap Sasuke right here and now. His serpentine yellow gaze followed him with interest, and Daiki ignored him as best he could as he made his way over to his friend and the copy prick. Shit, I didn't even consider that. Daiki cursed inwardly. He'd left Sasuke and his team behind in the forest, after showing he was capable of destroying Orochimaru's soul fragment and the cursed seal. He hadn't even considered the fact that the man might just have taken Sasuke because of Daiki, and not risk losing his future vessel. Stupid of him. He'd need to think things through a bit more. He was lucky this time, but the consequences of his actions needed to be understood more. He put that out of mind for now though as he approached the student and teacher pair waiting for him. Well, if it isn't little Timmy and the would-be criminal, Daiki said in greeting as he reached them. It was an odd sight. While Kakashi was the same as usual, Sasuke knelt within a ceiling circle on the ground, shirtless. Lines of ceiling kanji were painted all over his torso, leading down like chains onto the ground, going on for a few feet, before reaching up and spreading across multiple pillars. So this was the evil sealing method seal array? Or rather, it was extended compression seals, spread out over a larger surface to make it easier to compress the seal matrix onto a smaller target. It showed Kakashi's lack of skill when it came to sealing, because just from a cursory glance, he already had a decent understanding of the evil sealing method. I could apply this with only a fraction of the space, he mused. But this was something he hadn't considered. Using an amateur's tool, which would be akin to someone tracing another drawing and calling themselves an artist in scale, to apply a seal. With this method, I could use it to compress the seals for my eyes, he mused. I think he's talking to you, Sasuke. Kakashi mused, idly turning a page in his smutty book. Just ignore it, he says random crap that nobody understands all the damn time. Sasuke rolled his onyx eyes, and looked to Daiki, a frown on his lips. TCH, so you are totally fine, unlike me apparently. Sakura told you then? He asked in reply. Yes, Sasuke clicked his tongue, told me you shook off the pain of that seal unlike me real quick and then made it your own. Even used the power boost it gave you to blow that Orochimaru guy away. Well, almost right, if it was that easy to kill him, he wouldn't have lasted to this point. He escaped my jutsu without any problem. Daiki shrugged. As for the cursed seal, well, let's just say that I'm just built different from you. he added, and gave Sasuke a pointed look before touching his thumb to the right side of his chest. Sasuke's eyes widened minutely, before he quickly smothered his surprised look, returning to his usual impassive expression. "I see." His frown deepened. Kakashi looked up from his book at their silent conversation, before shrugging. "So, the Hokage tells me you have a way of not only dealing with the problems of the cursed seal, making it safe to use, but also improving upon it." Well, obviously the old man would tell Kakashi about it. "Not quite, I've made my own safe to use and improved upon it. In fact, by my estimates, the power boost it gives me has been increased by a bit over 50%, Daiki replied. "The problem is, the way I made it safe for me, isn't something I can replicate for anyone else." Kakashi's eyebrow raised and he gave him a searching look. If the Hokage told him of this, no doubt he told him of the fact that he could in fact do something about the Orochimaru soul fragment in other seals as well. He was just holding off on it for now. "Drop it for now." Daiki projected his chakra into a message and directed it into Kakashi's mind. Well, that's disappointing," Kakashi mused. "You're really quite useless here then, huh?" he needled. "Like you're one to talk. Look at the mess of this sealing array," Daiki scoffed. "I could get this seal down in a few hours and apply it with just my chakra, and you're supposed to be a student of the Yondaime Hokage, one of the greatest sealing experts to ever live, probably the best outside of the Uzumaki clan period." Uzumaki clan? Sasuke's eyes widened a bit. He seemed a bit shocked to learn of such a thing. "Yeah, extinct now except for a few like Naruto, but we used to be allies with them. In fact, we still wear their symbol." Daiki jabbed his thumb at Kakashi's flag jacket, pointing to where the Uzumaki swirl was displayed proudly. They were known for having absurd vitality, powerful chakra and stamina and being absolute monsters when it came to the sealing arts. As in so good they even make me look like an amateur and I'm pretty fucking amazing. Absurd vitality, powerful chakra and stamina, huh? Just like Naruto. Sasuke mused thoughtfully. "Yup, honestly, odds are, Naruto might be the last of his clan like you," Daiki pointed out. "Actually, I know you're a shit teacher and all Kakashi, but why haven't you tried to at least get him started on the basics? He might be a spastic, but his actual talent is only something an idiot would miss." You seem to know a lot about the Uzumaki clan and Naruto in general," Kakashi pointed out instead of answering. "Always with the runaround with this prick. Our alliance with the Uzumaki clan is well established in older textbooks, and what clown would pursue the sealing arts without knowing of the foremost masters of the art?" Daiki replied with a shrug. "Hell, you don't even need to teach him yourself. If you just told him he had a clan and they specialized in seals, he'd pursue it himself. That was just how much the blonde desired family, that even for just a connection to his clan he'd pursue it all." Just didn't occur to me." Kakashi waved him off blandly. "This guy. Ignore Kakashi. I'll tell him about it once this exam is done, so he doesn't obsess over it in the next round." Sasuke cut in. "Now enough of this crap. Can we get a move on here? You two might be having fun bantering like fools, but I'm not having a good time kneeling here with my own blood painted all over me." "You're such a spoil sport, Sasuke," Kakashi pouted, "but, I suppose since your little friend is utterly useless, we can get a move on." "Don't Bijudama him. Don't Bijudama him. I want to fucking Bijudama him." Daiki's eye twitched in annoyance. He'd even be pragmatic about it and fire it in the direction of Orochimaru while he was at it. Get rid of two annoying pricks for one Biju bomb. And everybody won, except Kakashi and Orochimaru. But who cared about them? You'd also blow away the entire tower, and much of the surrounding area. Isobu added his input. That was a sacrifice he was willing to make as long as it shut Kakashi the fuck up for a bit. "Alright. Brace yourself, Sasuke. This might sting a bit," Kakashi said, stowing his book away and walking over to stand behind Sasuke and ran through a few hand seals. "Just get on with," Sasuke began, only to be cut off by Kakashi. "Evil sealing method," Kakashi declared, finishing his hand seals and pressing his hand flat against the cursed seal on Sasuke's neck. The Uchiha's onyx eyes went wide and a howl of agony erupted from his throat almost immediately, his body beginning to convulse. The sealing kanji spread out over his back, the floor and the pillars began glowing and retracted from the pillars, shrinking from the floor and retreating up onto his back. In moments it was over, the massive lines of kanji gone, and replaced by a ring of sealing kanji circling around the cursed seal on Sasuke's neck. Kakashi pulled his hand from Sasuke's back, and the boys slumped over onto the ground, sweating profusely and panting deeply and rapidly, eyes wide. So, even if the cursed seal awakens again, this seal will suppress it. Kakashi began explaining nonchalantly, though Sasuke, the foundation of this seal is your own willpower. You have to want it to work and not be led astray by the temptation of the cursed seal's power. If you give in and rely on its power, the evil sealing method will be useless, so. Blah, blah blah, Daiki cut him off, rolling his eyes. Sasuke, if you rely on the seal, Orochimaru will brainwash you and take over your body, so don't just be a little bitch. I already owned this bitch-ass seal and made it my own. You can't because you're too weak and unskilled, that's it. So if you have to rely on it, it just means you're a weak piece of trash in the end and you'll never come close to Itachi. Honestly, Kakashi didn't understand Sasuke at all. The best way to make him not rely on the cursed seal was to bitch slap his pride and rub his balls all over it. Sasuke scoffed at his words, a smirk spreading across his face at Daiki's words. Look at you acting all high and mighty just because you've got a crappy seal that gives you a little power boost, he said. Don't forget who you're speaking to, loser. Even with that seal, your eyes and all your other little advantages, I'll still beat your ass in a fight. Daiki crouched down in front of the other boy and smirked. Tough talk. Let's see you prove it, he replied. I'll wait for you in the finals. Try and keep up, it'll be fun to see you talking so big when I'm punching your face in. Sasuke began replying, even as his eyes dimmed and his consciousness left him. Before his face could smack into the ground, Daiki caught him and hoisted his friend up onto his shoulder. He'd keep him safe himself. If Orochimaru tried to go for him and take him now, he'd blow him away full power. While he wanted to keep his status as a Jinchuriki hidden, he was surprised to find that he wouldn't hesitate to unleash his full power as the Sanbi Jinchuriki alongside his heavenly star seal to keep him safe from Orochimaru. When did I become such a fool? He wondered idly. It really was odd. Initially, he only planned to use these people and Konoha as a whole to make sure he survived the coming apocalypse. But somewhere along the way, he'd come to respect and care for them. Kukukuku, a familiar hissing laugh echoed through the underground basement. Now wasn't that an interesting little show? Kakashi's eyes widened and he immediately fell into a ready stance, pushing up his headband. Daiki, don't move from my side, he said, utterly serious. It was an interesting change from the Kakashi he was used to dealing with, and it seemed he hadn't at all sensed Orochimaru until the man decided to introduce himself. From behind one of the pillars, the pale snake-faced man, dressed in what looked like a Konoha Jonin uniform, made his way out, though it was different. Where Konoha's base was a dark blue, this was a pale purple, and the flak jacket a grayish blue. He'd outright copied the uniform of Konoha for his Sound Village, it seemed. Kakashi-kun, it seems you've even dabbled in the sealing arts these days. Impressive. Orochimaru's eyes gleamed as he looked from Kakashi to meet Daiki's own eyes. And Daiki-kun, so good to see you again. He licked his lips with a long, snake-like tongue. Yeah, nice to see you not frozen over and charred by lightning, I suppose, Daiki replied blandly, before smirking. If I were you, I'd toddle off, because I won't hold back this time. He added, and as he did, he pulled not only on the heavenly star seal, but also Isobu's chakra. Lightning-like marks spread across his body, and the whites of his eyes shimmered and turned into a ringed purple. This was more or less the same setup he had against Orochimaru in the forest before. But now, he was even stronger. Not only was his base form a decent bit stronger from the energy from the fragment of Gelel, but even the heavenly star seal gave a much improved boost compared to the cursed seal. In fact, with the star chakra and Gelel energy amplifying it, it was close to double the strength, at least hovering around the 1.75 times mark. So 75% stronger boost-wise. The boost it gave was near enough comparable to two of Isobu's base chakra cloak tails. With it and his initial Jinchuriki stage, he was around the same strength right now as back when he used the hero's water. Orochimaru didn't bat an eye at his threat, instead his eyes seemed to brighten with interest, so Kakashi was not lying when he said you improved upon the cursed seal. How interesting, he hummed. You really are quite the specimen, Daiki-kun kukuku. Surprisingly, before Daiki could reply to the snake sonin, Kakashi stepped in front of him, cutting the Mont's vision from him, glaring at Orochimaru. So not only Sasuke, but Daiki has your interest as well, huh? Kakashi huffed. Tell me, Orochimaru, what do you plan to gain from all this? Why go after Sasuke? Daiki felt the urge to roll his eyes. There was only one thing Sasuke had that Orochimaru wanted. It was obvious. Hell, he'd already told the Hokage and the like what he wanted. He supposed Kakashi didn't get the memo. That, or he was fishing for more information. Oh, you know how it is. Two guys have it already and this third one just has to have it. Cuckoo. Orochimaru laughed lightly. Three, I suppose, if you're counted, and all things considered, it hasn't been all that long since you were given it by your dearly departed little friend. So that's it then. Kakashi replied, voice monotone. Indeed, it's the Sharingan, Orochimaru revealed, spreading his arms wide, grandiosely, but pardon my rudeness, I have no interest in you, Kakashi-kun. Unlike Sasuke-kun. You're useless to me, I'm afraid. I have no need of an imperfect Sharingan user. Well, obviously, Daiki scoffed, if it was just about implanting the Sharingan like Kakashi, you could have raided the corpses of the Uchiha ages ago and got it like that. You want the natural ability to use it like an actual Uchiha, and for that you need to have the body of an Uchiha. Orochimaru's eyes lit up. Indeed, so intelligent aren't you, Daiki-kun? He hissed, seeming very pleased by his words. Unfortunately, all the Uchiha are now dead, beyond Itachi and Sasuke-kun. And I'm sure you understand why I'd target Sasuke-kun. Because you're too scared to face Itachi? Daiki taunted. He was looking for a rise out of the man, to break that amused facade and see about making him sloppy by attacking his pride. Orochimaru just chuckled. Well, you're still but a young lad, Daiki-kun. All that talent and power doesn't change that. He replied in amusement. Subduing Itachi and taking his body is much more of a challenge than taking young Sasuke-kun from the Leaf Village. It's just that simple, and I'm quite the pragmatic man, you see. His taunt washed over him like a pitiful stream against a mountain and was turned aside. Daiki clicked his tongue. Taunting was useless. What about insults then? So you're just a coward then looking for easy prey? He shrugged. But this isn't an orphanage, Petamaru, so I suggest you walk away before I might break my foot off in your scrawny ass. Could have fooled me, what with all the orphans in here and all. Cuckoo, Orochimaru laughed his words off. But do feel free to continue. The feeble banter point of battles are ever so amusing sometimes. I'm sure your mind is twisting and turning desperately trying to come up with options to combat me or escape. Damn, that was cold. His insults and taunting were completely ineffective here. But then, he understood it. What were the words of some little weakling when you towered so high above them like a lion over an ant? Or at least that was probably how Orochimaru saw the current situation. Shows what you know, I could escape from you instantly and you couldn't do a thing about it. Daiki scoffed at him. If it wasn't for Sasuke being vulnerable, I'd be beating your ass like you owed me money right now. Literally, he could escape to Isobu's personal dimension at any time. He was just reluctant to show it off in front of Orochimaru unless he was forced to. Well, you're welcome to try my interesting little friend. Orochimaru smiled widely, spreading his arms out invitingly, daring him to come at the man. Though I should add, that if you feel brave because Kakashi-kun is here, he wouldn't make a difference, I'm afraid. I'm sure he remembers how our last encounter went. I was barely a man at that time, Kakashi refuted. This won't go like that time, I'm far stronger than I was then. In response, Orochimaru chuckled derisively. No you are not, he replied, denying his words. In fact, I dare say you're weaker. You've lost that edge you had back then, Kakashi-kun, and let all that potential you had go to waste. Jonin at a mere 13 years of age and with potential to rival our dearly departed Minato-kun. Or at least near his own. But look at you now, you're older now than Minato-kun was when he died, and yet you don't even come close to his strength. What a disappointment you turned out to be. He's gonna need a fragment of Gelel for that one. Daiki resisted the urge to wince. That was a real burn right there. He had to resist the urge to clap. He was impressed. Surprisingly, Kakashi didn't react much at all to the insult, and kept his cool. Feel free to think so. True, I may be weaker physically, rusty from the peace we've enjoyed, but I've learned much along the way. The copy ninja replied. There may be a gap between us, Orochimaru. A substantial one. But don't think for a moment I don't have ways to cross it. Is that so? Orochimaru hummed thoughtfully. That is interesting. I wonder how exactly you would do that though. The Mangekyo perhaps? Did all that grief you went through in your younger years unlock it? Or mayhaps you've learned how to use the gates from Gaikun. I remember you were quite close to him, were you not? Kakashi stilled, only for a very brief second, but neither Daiki nor Orochimaru missed it. Oh, so the 8 gates then? Orochimaru mused. Interesting, so the Sharingan even allows you to copy that method? Wait, it does? Daiki had to resist the urge to let his own eyes widen at that information. He had no idea how he would get Guy to teach him to open the gates. And here the solution dropped right into his lap. Once he had Shisui's Sharingan, he could just copy the method. Perceptive as always, aren't you Orochimaru? I suppose you weren't called one of the greatest prodigies to ever come from Konoha without reason. Kakashi all but admitted he was right. But you guessing it doesn't change anything. I'm known as the master of 1,000 jutsu for a reason. Do you feel confident enough to take on all that jutsu amplified by the 8 gates? Now this is interesting. Daiki eyed Kakashi thoughtfully. This had went completely off script. Originally, Kakashi would have been stunned into inaction by Orochimaru, the gulf in their strength that massive. But here, Kakashi was ready to fight him and even had a plan to beat him. The 8 gates would fuck him up for sure, but it was still quite the hand to play. Even Orochimaru couldn't take that lightly, especially not with Daiki here. He already knew one little mistake would be all it took for Daiki to fire off the same jutsu he had in the Forest of Death, and if he couldn't escape it in time, like he had before, he would die. Well, that would be troublesome for sure. Orochimaru tapped his chin. Of course I would still beat you, Kakashi-kun, but it would become a bit of an exercise in doing so, and of course all that commotion would have reinforcements come running. Then he smirked. A good threat, Kakashi. How about I return the favor? He replied, and ever so casually, went through a few hand seals, before reaching down and pressing his hands against the ground, maintaining eye contact with Kakashi and Daiki and almost daring them to act. Daiki's eyes widened. He recognized those hand seals. The ground rippled and from it, a wooden coffin emerged from the ground. Oddly though, it wasn't as he was expecting. The coffin was open still, and there was no formidable shinobi within it. But rather, a girl he recognized, wrapped to the chin in bandages, her black eyes was wild with panic and terror. Orochimaru-sama. Please, I'm sorry we failed you, please have mercy, Kintsuchi begged him. What is this? Kakashi growled at him, and it was the first howl of pure emotion he'd given since Orochimaru appeared. The state of Kin actually inflamed his temper. Orochimaru opened his mouth, but Daiki cut him off before he could. It's Edo Tensai, the Nidaime Hokage's jutsu, he explained. Using a living sacrifice, it lets you summon someone that's already dead back to the world of the living as a puppet to fight under your orders as long as you have their DNA. Orochimaru's eyes actually widened. You know of it, Daiki-kun? My interest in you grows ever more, he hissed out, almost moaning in happiness, before he turned his attention back to Kakashi. Indeed, this is the Edo Tensai jutsu. You showed me your hand. I thought, why not show you mine? And as kind as I am, I thought, why not let you have a reunion with your dear departed and beloved teacher, Minato-kun? Kakashi's eyes widened in absolutely horror. Minato can't be summoned. His soul is in the Shinigami's stomach. Daiki's mind raced. This could be a real problem. But nothing stopped Orochimaru from changing who he summoned, and if he summoned Hashirama Senju, then they were absolutely fucked. Even with him being weakened from the non-improved Edo Tensai that Kabuto would perfect later, he was still a cage-level shinobi, beyond anyone currently in this room. And with the Mokuton, he could suppress the power of a Biju, which would totally invalidate Daiki's trump card. Or perhaps I could let you meet you dearly departed little friends. I wonder what Obito-kun or Rin-chan's reactions would be to Kakashi-kun all-grown you. He was cut off by 2 swords appearing in the air besides Daiki, crackling with lightning chakra. Twin streams of lightning shot towards Orochimaru, forcing the man to quickly evade, and Daiki didn't waste the surprise attack. He thrust his free hand out behind him, firing off a blast of pure force, jettisoning him forward at the same time he rushed towards Orochimaru. A split moment later, his foot smashed into the wooden coffin, right behind Kin's head and shattered it, and as he landed, he grabbed up Kin in his free hand and launched himself backwards, landing beside Kakashi. It was such a sudden attack, neither Kakashi or Orochimaru spoke for a moment. It only lasted a moment though. Orochimaru chuckled once more, how ruthless Daiki-kun, and we were having such a pleasant conversation too. He shook his head, and here I was being kind. Not only offering Kakashi-kun the chance to meet with those he misses so dearly, but even offering up one of the 3 that tormented his precious genin in the forest not long ago. Kin on his shoulder whimpered, but didn't speak. I'm not interested in sappy shit like that. Daiki shrugged. Even with balancing both Kin and Sasuke on his shoulder, honestly, this has dragged on way too long. I'm a busy guy, you see, so I cut that crap off at the head. Or well, I will after I rip yours off if you don't piss off already. Ah, Daiki-kun. Do you think little Kin is the only sacrifice I've prepared? I have dozens just waiting, Orochimaru tutted, and now you have even more baggage and made yourself a target. How do you plan to fight if you have to carry around Sasuke-kun and this useless little girl? In response, a jet of lightning shot from one of the Kiba blades hovering by his side and Orochimaru tilted his head to the side, easily avoiding the attack. I think I'll manage, he replied dryly. Well, if you want her, Daiki-kun, feel free to keep her. She's very much disposable, not like you and Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru shrugged the attack off nonchalantly, say Daiki-kun. It may be a bit abrupt, but why don't you cut your ties with the Leaf Village and join me? Konoha has squandered your talent for sure. Not a single person to teach you. With my teachings, you could very well surpass the Hokage of the past. Kakashi growled again, and eyed Daiki from the corner of his eyes. I'm good, Daiki snorted, I don't need your help. Now, let's not be too short-sighted here. Talent only goes so far, my young friend. Orochimaru waggled his finger reproachfully. And this village will soon be a thing of the past. It won't be long before I raze it to the ground. No you won't. Daiki denied flatly, instantly. The flat denying and so quickly, actually caused Orochimaru to blink in surprise. Oh, and how can you be so sure? He replied, you haven't even seen a glimpse of my true strength yet, my young friend. And the village hidden in the sound, I created it. They are all my loyal subordinates. Do you think Konoha can stand up to myself with a village at my back? I just got done fixing up my house and my buddy's pond. You destroying the village means you'll destroy my house, where I live, keep my shit and relax. Not to mention, this village has tons of hot girls. Daiki deadpanned, before narrowing his eyes. If you try it, I'll kill you and raze your village to the ground instead. Well, that is a pity, Orochimaru shrugged, unconcerned. Well, I'm sure your answer will change in the future when you see what's in store for Konoha. I can wait, and am unbothered by the arrogance of a child who doesn't understand the situation. Casually, the pale man stuffed his hands into his pockets and turned, walking away, and I've seen all I needed to know. He looked over his shoulder at them both and grinned. Sasuke-kun desires power above all else. Since you cannot get rid of my cursed seal, the day will come when he seeks me out for that power. If my hands weren't full, I'd be sticking the middle finger up at you. Daiki replied with a snort. Please imagine I'm doing so. Very well, I'll do that. Orochimaru nodded and casually walked away, disappearing behind the pillars out of sight, his presence vanishing. For Kakashi and any normal person at least. Daiki stared through the pillars and watched him go, sinking into the ground with a single-hand seal and making a straightforward path out of the building into the forest. Kakashi sighed, relaxing. Well, that was fun. The man commented idly, a bead of sweat trailing down the side of his face. Meh, that guy's a clown, Daiki scoffed. He's all big talk. I could take him. He'd have been in for a fight shock if he really tried to fight. Daiki would have dumped Kin and Sasuke's asses in Isobu's dimension, went full three-tailed cloak and unleashed all of his clones currently training in there while he was at it. Saying he's all big talk is quite funny from you. It's like your favorite pastime, Kakashi snorted. You might have your big turtle trump card, but if a single one of them going up against him was enough to bring him down, he wouldn't have reached this point. Double speak, why was he right? Kin Tsukuhi was currently privy to everything they were talking about. Sure, she seemed too terrified to even move in his grasp right now, but her ears were still working. Not true, my favorite pastime is getting laid. Unlike you, Virgin Kashi, Daiki snorted. Fight back, and how many of my kind has he actually fought? Never mind a perfect one like myself. Unless he ever fought Killer Bee or Yagura, then I doubt he's at all prepared to face me. You'd kill everyone in this tower by accident if you tried to go full power. Kakashi shook his head. Without it, he'd be privy to your secret, know what's going and flee before you could kill him, and he'd come up with multiple plans to deal with you. Orochimaru is not someone we can ever underestimate. I hate it when you're right, Daiki clicked his tongue, before shaking his head. So what will we do about this girl then? Kin Tsuchi is her name from what I remember from when I was scoping out the first exam. Can I keep her? She's cute enough and I've been looking to get some maids for my place. He'd show Sasuke he could get hot maids. Yeah, no, Kakashi rolled his eyes and replied flatly. She's a foreign kunoichi and former subordinate of Orochimaru. What is wrong with you, kid? A foreign subordinate he was going to kill, whom I saved the life of, and I'm stronger than Orochimaru. I'm totally badass, Daiki replied, trailing off in a tangent before getting back on track. I doubt she's going to betray anything to the guy who'd snap her neck for a laugh. He felt the girl on his shoulder stiffen and swallow heavily. Still, not going to happen. Kakashi shook his head. We need to have her interrogated and learn all we can about Orochimaru and this Sound Village. Well, obviously, Daiki rolled his eyes, but beyond being a foreign kunoichi, she hasn't exactly committed any crimes against us, and she won't be allowed to go freely, so she can be my maid after that. She tormented Sakura and tried to kill her and the rest of my team. Kakashi deadpanned. It's the Chunin exams. Do you know how many people I killed in the forest? Daiki scoffed. Hell, he planned on murdering the sensei of one of the teams he killed while he was at it, brutally so. Besides, Sakura kicked her ass. She's lucky Sakura isn't built to use my jutsu or she'd be dead in fact. You know I'm actually not in a position to grant any of that anyway, right? Kakashi rolled his eyes right back at him. If you want to have her as a maid instead of her being kept in a cell or killed, take it up with the Hokage. Fine. Daiki shrugged. Good. Kakashi shrugged. By the way, get bent, Kakashi. Daiki replied. Control your raging hormones, brat. Kakashi replied. Fuck you. Daiki retorted. No thank you. Kakashi retorted. And they bickered right up until they left the underground basement, where they parted ways. Daiki taking Sasuke to the infirmary and to keep an eye on him until he woke up. And Kakashi taking Kin to be interrogated.